1 minute to get myself set up.
This is the roll call for the January 11th, 2022 City Council work session. Roll call, the Honorable Council Member, the Honorable Khalid, Mayor.
Present.
The Honorable Catherine F. Rao, District 1.
Present.
The Honorable Carmelita Gum, District 2. The Honorable Helen Z. Willis, District 3. The Honorable J.C. Sebastian, District 4.
Present.
Present, and I hear an echo. Can someone please mute their phone?
I believe that's coming out of the mayor's connection, but it looks like it's gone now. Okay. The Honorable Corey A. Reeves, District 5.
Accounted for.
The Honorable Natasha Williams, District 6.
Present.
The Honorable Mark Baker, District 7.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
It appears he stepped away.
Mr. Mayor,
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
we can hear you now.
Can you see me?
We cannot see you.
Can you see me now? Could we take off the, could we just have the participant view? Could we hold the agenda for me? Thank you so much. That way I can see myself. We're going to get started. I just wanted to say a few quick things. We are here, as you can see, I am here at my new apartment in Camelot. And one of the things that I would like to do is make sure I want to reinstitute the practice of allowing public comment. We were going to have public comment at all the meetings, but I want to reinstitute the practice of council comments. We got away from that somehow, and I want to make sure that at the end of every meeting, including this meeting, that council members do have the opportunity to let people know about whatever it is that you have planned in your communities in the coming days. I am going to be talking during my public comment about some things that I have going on here in Camelot for King Day weekend.
And so with that, we are going to go ahead and get started with this meeting. Mr. Clerk, would you sound the first item, please?
The next item is invocation.
Is our city chaplain on the line?
Yes, we're present, Mayor. Let us pray. Dear God, we praise you for your goodness, and we thank you for bringing us together on this, the 11th day of the new year. God, we are grateful for your abiding generosity, which has blessed us and taught us how to be generous to each other. Life has taught us that we are all linked together in word, action, and deed. And so today in our hearts, we remember the words and action and deeds of our very own Jimmy Hood, one of our family members of the great city of South Fulton. Not only do we remember our family, but his family as well, oh God. We ask you to comfort them and strengthen them and use the strength and energy that we have as a city to empower them to know that we love them as we loved him. Now, God, for this meeting, we ask your blessings to fall upon our mayor and our council, that they may have the wisdom and the knowledge that you have given all of us to govern this city as they do. So we thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. Clerk, would you please go ahead and sound the first item?
The next item are the monthly reports. The first one is finance report.
I want to, before we begin, I want to just welcome, introduce to some, the new finance manager for the city of South Fulton.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the council members. It is my pleasure to present to you my financial report for the city of South Fulton. And I'll be presenting this report as of November the 30th, 2021. So we'll go to the next slide. And so in keeping with the same format that Ms. Brimberry has presented to the city over the many months, about a year, that she said I want to keep in that same format. So just kind of going through here a summary of the revenues for the city of South Fulton for November 30th, 2021. We can see where we're still collecting with about 81% on our property tax, and then about 99% on our other taxes, which of course include our insurance premium tax. So overall, the revenue collection is at 47%. Looking at the budget of 91.5 million versus what we've collected year to date of 43 million here. Next slide. So here we have a general summary of our expenditures here, looking at the different departments and all the way down to our Main Street Old National there. We can see that expenditures are trending at about 8%. And this is over a budget of 91.5 million versus we've already spent 7.7% here almost. So 8% of revenues, expenditures at the end of November 30th. We'll move to the next slide. And here on this slide, we're going to look at general fund. This is our year-to-date tax revenue. So as of 2021, the collection rate is, we're still recognizing a good collection here at 82.2%, which is almost about shy of about 16% to meet what we've actually collected overall for fiscal year 20 collection rate, which we show was a 98.5% there. Move to the next. And then here, this is going to be our general fund year-to-date loss revenue. And over the time, this time period last year, we're at about 27.24%. So really trending, still trending good, a little bit on that with our loss revenue. Go to the next slide for me. And then here, this is going to show our general fund year-to-date T-SPLOS revenues. And so over this time period here, November, over last year time period, we're at 16.4% over collection over November of 30th of 2020. Go to the next slide for me. And then this year shows our expenditure, summary of expenditures by different department. And this is just in a bar chart here for us. So this will change over time period as we keep moving, expenditures go up, and we can see where, of course, police administration, which is always the norm, is kind of spent a little bit more than any of the other departments. So we'll go to the next one. And so this slide here is just a summary of our revenues and expenditures. So for the month ending November 30th. And so this is a comparison between our budget and year to date. So we have our revenues at the top, and then we show our expenditures at the bottom. This is the next slide. And this here just shows what our cash account balances are at the end of November. And on this particular slide, I just want to bring attention to the bottom account, which is the savings, just to kind of say that we will be taking a look at this account here. And this is the city's saving account. Prior to me coming on board, Ms. Rivera had already started a process of potentially moving this money from a regular savings account to where the city was losing approximately about $15,000 a year in interest revenue. So looking at the potential of moving it out of a savings account and moving it into a Georgia Fund 1 account, which is getting a little bit more interest if the city move it out of a regular savings account. So that will potentially be coming back for you at a later date to request to move that money. We'll move to the next slide. And here we have our confiscated asset report. As of November, still no activity in this particular fund. So we'll keep a watch on this to see if any funds come in within our confiscated asset account for the city. And so that concludes my monthly financial report as of November 30th, 2021. And like I said, I would just like to publicly thank Ms. Rachel Brimberry for all her help and getting the city to where they are and really helping me to get up to speed since I've been here for a month. So if anyone have any questions.
Okay, I see Dr. Rowell in the queue.
Thank you, Mayor. I saw on our first projections of revenue, we still have the IGA with the city of Atlanta for this fiscal year, and we're not anticipating any revenue because now there is no area that's in the city of Atlanta, correct? And I think it's budgeted at, I think I saw right at 680,000.
Right, you don't pick up to 80,000. And I will double check that and get back with you on it just to verify for you.
Yeah, I think it might have been a very first slide or second slide.
Yes,
Yes, that one.
First slide. Yeah.
So that stood out, as well as our property taxes, which they're off about $6 million from what was budgeted, and we're now going into a new year. Is that correct? So this would have been money that we would have anticipated through this calendar year, or would the one we just closed out? Is that correct? Or is this from October 1st to September 30th, 2022?
Yeah, this is actually September the 1st of 2021 up until the end of November 2021. So we still have, December up to this time here. We're going to add some more property tax collections to this number.
Do you think it will get us up to the 33 million?
Yes, because just looking at the chart and looking at the collection rate here, we're already at about 82%. Overall, the city has had a real good property tax collection rate, up in the 98, 99% range. So I anticipate that it will still keep on that same trend.
Okay, and then I saw that, so the IGA with the city of Atlanta is still in effect. We just haven't gotten any payments as of yet. Is that correct, based on what he's saying? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Those were my only two questions.
All right, I see Councilwoman Willis in the queue. Mayor Pro Tem Willis in the queue.
Thank you. A couple of questions. When do we anticipate to get that revenue from the city of Atlanta? I recall last year we had to actually reach out to the CFO of the city of Atlanta because the payment was delayed.
And that I made a note of that, and I will make sure I follow up tomorrow and check on that, and definitely get you a definite answer so that we are not at the end of the fiscal year trying to hunt this money down.
Okay. Secondly, when will we start seeing or anticipating revenue from the Fulton industrial property tax, the annexation into the city? When will we see that or recognize that?
And from my history with property tax, because I believe that area was annexed in last year, correct, in 2021. So normally it comes in within this particular fiscal year, well, not this fiscal year, but when the bill out takes place for 2022. So they always look at the parcels that are on the digest as of 12/31. So these parcels would be on the digest for the city limit of the city of South Fulton. So that collection is going to fall in fiscal year 23.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, asset forfeiture, the last slide that you showed.
Okay.
So currently for confiscated funds, we show 246,000, and that is in our bank, with no expenses or anything tied to it.
That is correct. And from history, it's normally tied to the police department. So I definitely will follow up with them just to kind of see what's the norm. When do they expect to utilize those funds that are available there?
And I said this was my last question, but this is really my last question. When will we start seeing the accounting from the American Rescue Funds?
And that one, I'm gonna take a look at it because from what Ms. Kelly informed me, we should be expecting some of that money to come in, or some of that expenditure. So,
well, we already have a partial part of that money, but I would like to see the financials around that.
okay, all right. I will work on getting that and try to have that ready for the next financial report.
Thank you.
Let me just check the queue. There doesn't seem to be any other council members with questions or comments. I do have a comment / question for you, Ms. Slaton-Dixon. We had some discussion in our and previous mayor's meetings around the possibility of late tax payments due to the pandemic. There have been, in 2020, we did see that, and there were some allowances made. Have you heard anything? And I would ask for you to just keep an eye on that. You want to respond to that?
All right, I definitely will, because I have some information I'm working on with the county tax commissioners as well. So I will definitely add this to the list of items that we're working on. Yeah.
Thank you. But as of now, there is no special. Those of you all who haven't paid your property taxes, there is no late payment plan as of now. But it is something that we just want to look at. I'm going to recognize Dr. Rao. Do you have your hand up, Dr. Rao?
Yes, one more question. As you mentioned, Ms. Slaton, you're working with the tax commissioner. Will you also ensure that for those blighted properties who have kept their properties in an extended state of blight, that they comply with our municipal ordinance for additional penalty for failure to bring their property into compliance?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
All right. Sound the next item, Mr. Clerk.
I'm sorry. The next item is the city manager's report.
Madam City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Khalid. Good evening to you. Good evening, council members, citizens and staff. Tammi Jones, your city manager. The first thing I wanted to go over, on January the 9th, I provided to the council a list of administrative actions that have been completed or in progress by the staff, so we can ensure a smooth transition for our newly elected officials. And as your city manager, it's important to me that staff, that we lay the groundwork, for the mayor and the council member success, and also the success of our city. And I'm happy to just provide you a brief report on those actions. And again, the memo went out to you, so hopefully you've had a chance to see it, or if not, if you will eventually take a look at that. But those things that we've completed, we held a 2-day comprehensive orientation training for our newly elected officials. That was held on December 20th and December 22nd. We had full participation from our elected officials, our newly elected, and also from our city departments. You have also been provided from our city clerk's office a comprehensive binder of information that contains our ordinances, our resolutions, policies, and procedures. So I would ask that you please take a look at that. Of course, again, I want to thank our staff who planned and implemented the January 4th swearing-in ceremony at City Hall. Other action items that we're in the process of doing, I had mentioned during the orientation that it may be a good idea as we look at the possibilities of having some SPLOST funds for our upcoming Parks Master Plan, looking at doing some site visits to some other cities that use SPLOST. I would also, like to plan site visits for, our elected officials to get an update on some of our city facilities that we're currently doing some renovation projects. Those projects are being funded by our CIP and our URA funds. Of course, the staff, we've been, assisting with advertising and hiring office staff for our newly elected officials. And then, of course, our finance department will be setting up an opportunity for you all to review your approved fiscal 22 operating budgets. So please be on the lookout for any emails from our staff. I want to take this opportunity to announce that we've selected Ms. Diane Dixon to serve as our court administrator. Ms. Dixon recently served as the court administrator for Clayton County Magistrate Court and comes to us with an extensive experience overseeing court operations. She started on January the 10th, so we're glad to have her aboard. I also want to announce that our interim community development director is Ms. Rebecca Kiefer. Ms. Kiefer is a certified planner with over 12 years of experience in zoning code development and administration, community planning, master planning, and project administration. She served as the deputy or interim director at other municipalities, and she will be assisting us until we fill our permanent director position in community development. I wanted to make you aware, of course, which the elected officials know, but the public, that City Hall and our other facilities did reopen on Monday, January the 10th. And out of an abundance of caution and to ensure the safety of our employees and our visitors, we have asked all of our staff, whether they are vaccinated or unvaccinated, to submit a COVID-19 test before returning to work. Those individuals, who have gotten a negative test result were allowed to enter the building. We do have some employees, of course, in the age that we're in this pandemic, who tested positive. So we are working with them where we can to continue teleworking until they, and of course, do the proper quarantining, and then, of course, asking them to submit a negative test before they return to the building. So I would ask you to please, be patient with us, as COVID is affecting, our workplace, just like it is other workplaces across the country. And we will continue to do our very best to serve our businesses and our residents. In December of 2021, the city, we submitted the application for the first responders $1,000 bonus that's being given out by the governor's office. We are still waiting on approval of our application, but as soon as we get those funds, we will be distributing those to all of our eligible employees. I know I've gotten some information that other cities have distributed theirs, but we have done everything that we were supposed to do, and we're just waiting until we get the funds at the city, and then we will be giving those out immediately. I wanted to let you know that I'm working with Chief Chad Jones to get some home test kits so we can distribute those within our community. From my understanding, that is an eligible use of our American Rescue Plan money. So Chief Jones is assisting me, and we will continue to communicate to the council when those test kits arrive. I do understand that it takes a few weeks, but as soon as we get those, we will let you know so we can start distributing those to those who need them. And then the last thing I just want to just remind the public, city offices will be closed on Monday, January the 17th, in observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And Mayor Khalid, that concludes my monthly report for today. At this time, I'll take any questions.
All right, I'm going to start with Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Mayor. City Manager Jones, is it possible for you to provide a report on how we've spent the first half of our American Rescue allocation? I know we get it in two parts, but I know there have been some questions that have been raised by constituents, and in the effort to be transparent in the use of those funds, I think it would be helpful if we could have something that's posted on the city's website to just deal with those funds in particular.
Yes, ma'am, we can do that. And, you know, we really haven't spent much other than when we did our turkey giveaway back in November. But yes, we can certainly provide some information. And it's important to me that, you know, we're always doing what we're supposed to do with that federal money that's been given to us. So I have no problem being as transparent as possible on how we are using it.
Thank you for that. And while we're talking about AR, I think a summary report for the CARES Act money, our first allocation of money, will be available. I know there's some information that's available on the website, but maybe something that could be, you know, just in a PDF form. So if we can disseminate to our constituents, that would be ideal.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, I see Councilwoman Gums in the queue.
Thank you for recognizing me. Quick question, City Manager, and I don't know if you mentioned this. What is the status on the using the CARES Act money or the American Rescue Funds for, I guess, the pandemic reimbursement for mortgage or rental assistance?
Actually, we are working. Actually, I think I just got a email from our staff on this, but we are still trying to work with a vendor, because it's my understanding, I believe we have to do an RFP. We did that the first time for a vendor. And I'm saying that because when we are trying to find a vendor to distribute our food insecurity funds, we had to do an RFP. And if I am not mistaken, I believe we're going to have to do that again for the vendor to do the rental and mortgage assistance.
Okay. Is there any information on the timeline at all when it'll get started, maybe?
I honestly don't have a timeline for you right now, but I will try to get that to you as soon as possible. And I will send something out to the council, and then I will make sure I try to get an update for my monthly report for next month as well. Because I know that people are in need of those funds, and we really do want to try to get them out as soon as possible. And as it's been reported, you know, we got our first allocation of American Rescue Plan money. We got 11.3 million. We got the first allocation, and then our second allocation is due to us in May of 2022.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll look forward to that information. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
All right, and then we have Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
Thank you for recognizing me, Mayor. I have a couple of questions. For the bonuses, public safety, that was a resolution that I did bring forth, and the council did approve unanimously for those funds to be distributed once it is approved. I would like to ask you, Ms. Sadler Jones, to work with Chief Jones and Chief Meadows to send out communication to employees, because I've noticed on a couple of social media sites, some employees are under the impression that we have received those funds and we have not dispersed them to them. Specifically, I saw one employee stating that you all got money from the government, but you all have not paid us. And that is not the case from what you just reported. And so communication is key. And our public safety, I mean, they are ride or die. When we are running away from trouble, they are running to the trouble. And so we definitely want to make sure they're getting what's due to them. And we definitely do not want them to think that we are in possession of any funds that have not distributed. So if you could send out some communication to Chief and Meadows and Chief Jones so that they can communicate that with their staff, I would greatly appreciate that.
Yes, ma'am, we can do that. And again, I want to assure any of our public safety employees who would be eligible for these funds that we are not holding anything. As soon as we get it from the state, we will distribute it to you, because Councilmember Willis, as you just mentioned, I mean, these are people who are out, you know, in jobs, risking their lives for our community. And we would certainly not do that and hold any money from them. So as soon as we get it, we will send it out. But I think that's an excellent idea. And I will get with the chiefs so we can get some communication out to our public safety employees.
Thank you. My next question is, can you give us a little bit more insight of what's going on around the permitting process? Because I am getting several complaints from people who are saying that they have applied for permits and they're not getting, they're not being responded to. They're not getting via email, or they're not being responded to via phone. So can you please give us an update on where we are with staffing, or why there is such a slow response relative to the permitting process?
Yes, so I really hate to put Miss Kiefer on the spot, but yep. Rebecca, if you don't mind, because this is something we talk about pretty much every day, can you give the council just a brief understanding of where we are and next steps that we are doing to try to address the delays or, you know, ability for, you know, individuals to get their permits. So if you don't mind doing that for me, please.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you everyone for having me here tonight. So as an update on that, we recognize there is a pretty substantial backlog, and so that is our most immediate priority, is to get those permits in and processed. We've got a team of folks working on getting through those so that we can be behind the backlog, hopefully, I would say by the end of this month, and be processing them under a much more deliberate and predictable time period. We're looking at maybe 10 business days after we get out from this backlog. Right now, I am working with a lot of members of the public and applicants to be able to communicate that plan, and then also get status updates, address different questions and concerns. So that's really what we're working toward, is triaging those permits and open records requests. And then we'll go ahead and do an assessment of the overall process and look at efficiencies and improvements that we can make to the overall workflow. Right now, we've been hit not only with some of the what we've known to be the reduced staffing, but then also just in the past week or so, a couple of unexpected absences. So we're also working through those, but really trying to work through that backlog. So if there's anybody, I'm happy to look up statuses and help get some things moving. If you guys want to send anything specifically to me, I'm happy to take those.
And thank you for the update, Ms. Kiefer. Ms. Sadler-Jones, do you mind if I ask Ms. Kiefer, how when you say backlog, how backlogged are we? What are we talking about in numbers?
So as far as plan reviews, I think I looked just recently, and some of these are not backlogged because they're new ones coming in every day, but there are just a little bit over 400 plan reviews pending. And there are also approximately 90 permits awaiting intake. And that high number is certainly as a result of our most current absences. So that number I foresee in the next week to be greatly reduced, but we're just chipping away at those backlog permits, that 400 number, and trying to get that down to just the ones within that 2-week period. But some of the permits do date back, I think as far as reviews, due dates, October, or maybe even a little bit before that.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Kiefer, for your update and all that you do. I have 2 more questions and then I'll yield. The RFP process for the food insecurity vendors, you mentioned that we did do that and we did go through that, Ms. Sadler-Jones. Where are we with that process?
It's my understanding from our purchasing manager, a recommendation will be on the January 25th City Council agenda.
Okay, thank you. And lastly, for the mortgage and rental assistance, Ms. Sadler-Jones, I don't know how we can do this, but maybe the best way is to go directly to the county to find out who they have provided assistance to, mortgage and rental assistance, because I know that people are receiving that assistance from the county, and I just don't want us to be in a situation where people are double dipping, because they did have a cutoff and some people did not receive assistance. And I would love for us to focus our areas in those areas where people did not get assistance or receive any assistance for mortgage and rental, and not continue to give to people who have already been assisted. I want this money to help as many people as possible.
Yes, ma'am. And I do know that the county, has a system that they are using to try to avoid people double dipping, so to speak. So, I mean, that is very important. And I hope people don't do that, because that can come with some serious, trouble with the federal government. But we will do our very best to make sure that does not happen.
Well, people will do that. And I just don't want us to be in a situation where we're not doing our doing our due diligence on our end to avoid those, and also for small business loans as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I see Councilman Sebastian in the queue.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thank you, Madam City Manager. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for recognizing me. Thank you, Madam City Manager. Let me just thank everyone again who helped to arrange our swearing in under very difficult circumstances. My hat's off to the staff. And I just want to tell you guys that it didn't go unnoticed by us. I share Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem's concern over the permitting process. My election was on November 30th, and on December 2nd, I started getting requests for permits that I've been told were like 4 months behind. I don't know if that's true, but they're continuing to come in. And so I'm very glad to hear that we're already on the ground. Thank you, Ms. Kiefer, that you're already on the ground trying to get ahead of this problem. Because based on, I think, on my little knowledge of the industry, don't know about around here because it's warm a lot of times here, but in the construction industry, the winter time is typically the time that folks do a lot of paperwork and permit and all that sort of stuff. So I can imagine that you guys are being flooded right now, and thank you for coming up with a plan for getting ahead of that. I was going to ask that question before Councilman Willis asked it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and I want to chime in about that as well. I'm going to go ahead and co-sign everyone thanking you, Madam City Manager, and everyone who helped put together the swearing-in ceremony. I also want to thank those citizens who joined me on the steps of City Hall. While I was there and while we were preparing, several people were coming up asking about permits. And one of the common refrains I heard was that people were going online and then being told to call a number. And when they called the number, the mailbox was full, and some other people in the department did not have their mailboxes set up. So I do just want to make sure that, and I'm guilty of this. My mailbox is always full, but I do want to, whenever possible, make sure that everyone working in that permits department is clearing out their mailboxes and that people can at least leave a message about their concerns.
Okay.
And then, secondly, chiming in about, I have seen some of these comments about ARP funds, and yes, I will also co-sign. I certify that we are not the holders of any unaccounted for public money, but I also understand that to lay people, we got ARP funds, we got CARES Act money. There's talk in the news that maybe there's going to be some other money if we ever pass this infrastructure bill. I think it would be helpful, Madam City Manager, if we could get with our communications department and maybe just make some sort of infographic that explains, and even if it's just internally in our South Fulton Digest, but some of this might also be helpful for the public. We had hazard pay, we have these $1,000 checks that are coming, so we have all of these sorts of different payments. I think that sometimes people just get things conflated and confused. They know that we've received CARES Act money, which is an entirely different tranche of money than what some of these payments to public safety would be. So just so that everybody is on the same page and understands all the different buckets, if we had some sort of, colorful one sheet that explained that, I think that would go a long way in eliminating some of this confusion.
Yes, sir. We will work on that, and I definitely think those are all good ideas. And I know that some cities much larger than we are, they put things on their website so people can see how that money is being spent. And I know people use our website consistently, so having this information on the website should be very beneficial, and a one-sheeter would probably also be beneficial as well. So we will work on that, because again, I want people to know that we are abiding by the rules and regulations to use any federal or state monies that we receive.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Would you sound the next item?
Yes, sir. The next item is public comment. And since this is the first time we're doing this, Mr. Mayor, do you want to allot 30 minutes?
Yes, whatever. That's what we normally allot. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. So, and I will just say, in opening up, I want to make sure that I believe that democracy is a conversation, and I want to make sure that we are in constant conversation with our constituents. So it is my intention that at every meeting we will have public comment. We're going to leave the forum open until 12 p.m. the day of the meeting. So we will always open our meeting, or at some point in the beginning of the meeting, we will have public comment. And at some point at the end of the meeting, we will have comments from all of our council members. So I know we haven't done that in a while. You guys get ready. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and get ready and get your comments together for that. And all right, Mr. Clerk, go ahead.
Hey, Mr. Mayor and Council, we received a total of 18 comment through the system. We have a number of folks who would like to speak live. So I would just like to remind everyone to state their name, their address, and their district. and you will be allotted 2 minutes to make your comment. Today's first public comment speaker is Mr. Drew DeMann. Mr. DeMann, are you on the call?
Yes, here I am.
You have, please state your name, address, and district if you know it, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, this is Drew DeMann. My address is 4640 Gordon Street, South Fulton, 30213. Also appears as Fairburn, just to be on the safe side. That's what it officially is for the post office. And I'm in District 7. So I'll be brief because I know there are probably a lot of people to talk, and I'm just here to say thank you very much to council and the mayor. I continue to be very optimistic and enthusiastic about our city, and specifically today, just showing my support for Mayor Khalid and his agenda and the goals that we share. And I do believe that the prerogative of the council to give him the full complement of rights and responsibilities to execute his office is really important. And I want to make sure that y'all are accommodating his needs to the best of your ability. And specifically now, in terms of appointing or replacing city manager, city clerk, city attorney. I believe the mayor should have the power to do that to ensure a transition to a new administration that's functional and works with common goals. So I defer to the mayor's objective in that respect, but I want to see council support the mayor in his desire to move forward with a new suite of administrative officers. That's about the extent of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next speaker, Mr. George Oliver. Mr. Oliver, are you on the call? George Oliver. Next speaker is Mr. Dedricus Gordon. Dedricus Gordon, are you on the call? Next speaker is Mr. Christopher Bazemore. Mr. Bazemore, are you on the call? Next is Mrs. Brianna McGeehan. Brianna McGeehan.
Yep, I'm on the call.
Okay, welcome. Please state your name, address, and you will have 2 minutes to make your comment, please.
Okay, great. Thank you. My name is Brianna McGeehan. I live at 4640 Gordon Street, 30213. At the risk of speaking fast, I have a lot of thoughts to share. First, I just want to say that I think this is a very positive moment in our city. The people of the city of South Fulton have elected an activist and a democratic socialist for mayor, which is actually a very big deal. We did it on purpose, not to upset members of city council that were loyal to Bill Edwards, but because we as citizens voted with our ethics and our political convictions in mind. Let me be clear that we did not elect a democratic establishment politician. We elected a democratic socialist, and we elected real change. Now, I really just want to share that it's been rather disappointing that in the weeks since Mayor Khalid won the runoff, members of our city council have tried to change the city charter without the input of the people of this city and have been working against the mayor, the people of this city elected. I'm sad to say that in this moment that could be like really exciting for our city, the city council has taken an oppositional role to our mayor and thus taken an oppositional role to the citizens. I see members of city council, particularly Councilwoman Gums and Councilwoman Willis, posting negative things about Mayor Khalid online. Nothing of substance that I'm going to share. I have screenshots for posterity's sake, but just mean-spirited comments. These posts have further divided our city in a moment when we needed to be united behind our new mayor. To me, this behavior is reprehensible. I hope the new members of council will look at their behavior with disdain and separate themselves from it. And unfortunately, I'll add that members of council probably have a false sense of support in that the City of South Fulton's Facebook page is not a neutral space. Many Mayor Khalid supporters have been banned for no good reason. And honestly, the rest of us are, we're rather tired of that 10-person echo chamber. I support Mayor Khalid's proposals to have legislation go through public committees and his call for the resignation of city manager, attorney, and clerk. This is a place where the charter should change so that we can have a more solid democracy in this city. We as citizens do not have the power to elect the manager, attorney, or clerk, but we do have the power to elect our mayor, and thus the person we choose should be able to choose those employees.
Ms. McGeehan, your time is expired.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you for making your comment.
Thanks a lot.
The next speaker. Next is Dedricus Gordon, who lives on Pine Tree Trail in District 6. I support Mayor Khalid's ideas, and I think you should too, including the entire city council. Next is Mr. Christopher Bazemore on District 4, who lives on Apple Mist Drive. I support Mayor Khalid and his ideas, and you should too. Next is Karen McGeehan, who lives on Elgin Street in District 7. Her comment is, I support Mayor Khalid and his proposals to have legislation go through public committees and call for the resignations of the city manager, attorney, and clerk. I support Mayor Khalid, and you all should too.
Recording in progress.
Next is David Rector, who lives in District 4 on Edgewood Cove. His comment is, when City of South Fulton police officers patrol, they ride by vehicles parked against the flow of traffic rather than ticketing violators. Additionally, cars running stop signs and speeding within the subdivisions and on the streets of the City of South Fulton is a serious and dangerous problem for residents, pedestrians, and visitors. We would like for Chief Meadows to assign marked and unmarked cars to stop sign intersections within subdivisions and on streets to ticket drivers who fail to stop at stop signs and to ticket drivers violating the speed limits on a regular basis. Within the City of South Fulton, there is a serious problem with speeding, running stop signs, parking against the flow of traffic, and overnight street parking. Residents should like for the police department, code enforcement, and public works departments to work with us to help resolve these issues. Next is Mrs. Pamela Harris, who lives on Lyon Avenue in District 1. She says, my name is Pamela Harris, and on behalf of the constituents in District 1 of the City of South Fulton, I am publicly demanding that Catherine Rao support our newly elected Mayor, Khalid Kamau. Often in a new administration and government, it's often customary to request the resignation of all administrators, agency heads, deputies, assistants, and other immediate assistants to take effect upon acceptance of the mayor-elect. The council advised mayor-elect of their displeasure, and he immediately apologized. This practice of asking for resignations is done often when there's a change of guard, realizing or with the understanding that a number of employees may wish to continue their public service and will be reappointed or wish to remain to assist in the orderly transition. Corey Adams has done an exceptional job, in my opinion, and he is one of the most efficient city clerks that I've had the privilege to watch over the years. I don't believe that anyone would accept his resignation ever. Let's move on already with the hope that you, Catherine Rao, will consider your employees by keeping us informed, and in return, we will make every effort to make this city that we can all be proud of. Next is Mrs. Joyce Armster, who lives on Creel Road in District 6. She states, I'm the president of the Heritage Park Homeowners Association and Honoru, Old National Area Residents United. I am looking forward to working with each of you in making our city be the best of the best. The youth may know the road, but the elders know the way. Next is Mr. Richard Snellings, who lives on Loch Lomond Trail in District 1. On January 4th, 2022, Mayor Khalid announced priorities to have a forensic audit of all contracts and finances of the city. He also mentioned that he would like to create a position for a public advocate. He also requested the resignation letters of the city attorney and city manager. It's important that the residents understand that the mayor acknowledged during this speech he does not have the authority to fire, and these were requests. Gums eloquently stated on the stage at St. James Live that council is here to support the mayor. Now that you got your little resolution out the way, let's start working with the mayor by approving the items mentioned by the mayor on January 4th after his unofficial swearing in. Next is Mr. Carl Neal, who lives on Sandy Pines Drive in District 1. He states, I support Mayor Khalid and I wish the other council members did as well. No new administration should have to work with leaders picked out by the prior administration. Also, stop trying to further limit the mayor's, as Helen stated, figurehead only limited powers. Enough is enough. Next is Mrs. Drusilla Tally Williams, who lives on Hubbard Walk in District 1. She says, hi, this is Drusilla Tally Williams of District 1. I am extremely excited for the new year and new City of South Fulton administration to be led by Khalid Kamau. Though there seems to be quite a bit of chaos and divisiveness, it is my expectation that my vote represents unity. Unity doesn't mean groupthink or single-mindedness, but rather respect and cohesiveness that is sometimes forged by a singular vision. In this case, that vision should not only be branding the city of South Fulton as the blackest city in America, but the most inviting, the most prosperous, and the most innovative. I believe that this is Mayor Khalid's vision, and the people of the city have let our voices be heard to make way for this new direction. Not only should staff, but anyone else who doesn't support the vision might also consider rendering their resignation to make room for those who are interested in being solution-oriented instead of destructive. Thank you. Next is a comment from Ms. Jill Lindsay, who lives in District 7. She states, I support Mayor Khalid Kamau in whatever he needs to do to bring our city together. The citizens and communities and business owners are depending on our leaders to do right and work together in harmony. Thank you. And we have two more. Next is Mrs. Jane Williams, who lives on Shenfield Lane in District 5. She states, good evening, everyone. Congratulations to newly elected and to our new council as a whole. I would like to express my disappointment from your unsatisfactory level of service. I've expected much more from a prestigious and esteemed council of your standard. Unfortunately, I can't help but submit this letter of complaint, hoping for a fast and adequate resolution. My heart is grieved with all of the bickering going on with this council, beginning at the very top. Y'all can't agree on anything from the charter to your employees. And who suffers? The community. We still have sidewalks that goes nowhere on Flat Shoals Road, along with bad lighting, overgrown grass, etc. Can we address the issues of South Fulton. I am tired of the embarrassment that is brought to the city. I hope y'all agree with me that this is not acceptable under any circumstance. I trust that you will deal with this issue in a top urgent fashion. I also trust that you will take the necessary precautions to prevent such incidents in the future. If not, I think we, the community, should consider our options for the city. Thank you, Jane Williams. And the last speaker is Jerome Carter, who lives on Loch Lomond Trail in District 1. Something for the residents to consider. Khalid's official swearing in occurred last Thursday. The comments he made requesting resignations was prior to him being sworn in. He had no power to do anything because he was mayor-elect. This entire resolution is a fraud perpetrated by Rao, Gums, Willis, Sebastian, Reeves, and Williams. These council people violated charter and the Open Meetings Act by not giving sufficient notice to the public for their illegal press conference. Who is writing the resolution of disapproval for them for violating the charter that they took an oath to protect? I'd also like to call attention to Carmelita Gums. She went on Facebook and told a resident that our mayor's only job is to shake hands and kiss babies. People gets no more disrespectful than, especially considering Khalid has been nothing but diplomatic to these council members. According to Gums, since the mayor has no power to do anything, everything bad that happens in the city is doing of the city council, and they should bear complete responsibility since they have all the power per Carmelita. Ms. Gums, if you don't like him, just say that. That completes public comment for today.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, would you sound the next item?
Yes, the next item is presentations. Mr. Mayor and Council, the first presentation, Department of Human Resources policy changes. It is my understanding that the city manager wishes to remove that item and hold that for a later time.
Is that correct, Madam City Manager?
Yes, sir, it is. And also our HR director is ill today. So we would like to hold that to a later date.
That's fine. I thought we were gonna talk about some things. Well, please get well soon, Ms. Graham, and we'll go on to the next item, more benefits.
Yes, the next item is item 2 under presentations. It's the police department recommended bonuses and incentives. And I believe City Manager Sally Jones, you're going to introduce this for the chief?
Yes, thank you so much. Our chief, Keith Meadows, had presented to me a recommendation that we look at bonuses, retention, and recruitment bonuses for our police department. And I know he and his command staff have discussed this and put together a presentation for council to consider. So I wanted to turn it over to Chief Meadows. And, you know, we're not asking specifically for a decision today, just want to get the council's feedback, and we will continue to look into this matter and come up with a recommendation if you are inclined to be in support of it. So Chief Meadows.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing?
Good afternoon.
I wanted to thank you all for taking this time to listen to this presentation. I wish I could take credit for it. I actually have Lieutenant Jubal Rogers on with me today. He brought this program to my attention, and I'm very big on leadership, and one of the biggest parts of leadership is being able to sell your ideas. So I have him on the call with me. So we're going to go through to the first slide. One of the problems that we're seeing in law enforcement today is high attrition rates. I mean, the national average attrition rate is 10.8%, and the city of South Fulton is at 11.2%, which is slightly above that. We're not doing bad in comparison to most police departments in the region, but our goal here is to try to make sure that we stay on the proactive end of maintaining our workforce. You'll see, if you go on to the next slide, many agencies in the Atlanta metropolitan area have these retention and hiring bonuses. When Lieutenant Rogers brought this to my attention, he actually did all of the research on this in terms of reaching out to a lot of the different agencies. You'll see that the Atlanta Police Department gives a $3,000 retention bonus after you've attained 5 years of service. Cobb County is doing a $500 bonus for post-certified police officers, and the list goes on. And most recently, the Fulton County Sheriff instituted a $9,000 hiring bonus for the Fulton County Sheriff's Office. So as you can see throughout the region, many police departments are taking those proactive steps to not only maintain, but to also build their workforce. If you think about some of the vacancies in other departments right now, the city of Atlanta has nearly 600 vacancies. Clayton County has 54, Cobb County has 32. East Point has 34, and the city of College Park has 28. All of these police departments are in competition for a relatively small workforce because people going into law enforcement, the numbers are shrinking every year. And so it becomes important for us to stay as competitive as we can, and we're trying to stay on the forefront of that competition. And so when we look at our own workforce, we're at 178 in terms of personnel right now. And when we first started back in 2018, when the police department came over from Fulton County, we only had 87 police officers. Well, right now we've been able to double that force. And so a majority of those police officers that came on during that last 3-year period, they're actually eligible. Most are eligible to seek employment elsewhere. After 2 years, state law requires them to stay with their hiring agency. Otherwise, the hiring agency would have to compensate the initial police department. Well, we're far past that right now. We're in year 3 for many of our police officers. And as we look at it, we have 43 police officers among our ranks that would be eligible to leave after we've put them through the academy. Now, IACP says that if we spend nearly $100,000 between the time we hire a police officer and the time they actually graduate from the police academy. And if you think about that in terms of dollars, that's a significant amount of money. We're looking at $4.3 million just of that investment. And I think it's important for us to try to maintain that personnel. And so history teaches us if we keep a police officer up to 9 years, that we pretty much have them for the rest of their career. You can go on to the next slide. So here's how it will work. The recruitment bonus would be a $3,000 hiring bonus for post-certified police officers coming to the city of South Fulton. They would agree to a 3-year contract to serve that time with the police department. The retention bonus would serve as a 3-year commitment also. We would ask that the police officer sign an employment contract with the city of South Fulton. I've spoken with Ms. Graham, the HR director, and she's had previous experience with this program in other agencies, and she has some contracts and some policy issues that we're interested in sitting down and looking at. We've also looked at some best practices from other police departments throughout the region. You can go on to the next slide. And so here's the funding justification for it. In 2018, as I said, we only had 87 staff members that was on board at that time. We hired a total of 44 in that next year, and then we hired a total of 20 that previous year. And I think in 2021, I think we hired another 22, 23 officers. And so that pretty much puts us where we are today, and we're looking at building on those numbers. But as I said earlier, we want to maintain our workforce. If you look at the retention year, we would look at paying out $261,000 in terms of bonuses for people that had a retention year of 2021. We would look at budgeting the 44 that would attain their retention year in 2022. We would look at implementing that in the FY 2023 budget, but however, we would pay it out at some point during 2022 by the end of this year. And then we would also look at budgeting in subsequent years to issue the retention bonus for those that would attain their retention year in 2023. Now, the hiring bonus, you all were gracious in terms of allowing us to get 28 more police positions in the upcoming budget. We anticipate that potentially half of those might be post-certified people in addition to the vacancies that we already had. And so we would be looking at an estimated cost of nearly $60,000 for the hiring incentives to bring police officers on. As I said, we have many police departments that are implementing this same program, and police officers are leaving their original hiring agencies for these incentives. You can go on to the next slide. Now, we understand this isn't just a silver bullet. This isn't the one thing that's going to keep us from being able to maintain and build our workforce. We're looking at a number of different options and alternatives here. Right now, we have a program where we're allowing people that want to pursue leadership positions. We're sending people to leadership classes. Right now, we have 2 of our captains down at Command College pursuing their master's degrees. We have a number of our employees going to Atlanta Metropolitan State College, taking leadership classes. Those are courses that we're paying for through our educational fund. Those are other incentives that we're looking at. But then also, when we think about the vision for most police departments, we have a lot of younger people that are really interested in technology and pursuing the technological advances that's coming into law enforcement. And we've done a very good job of pitching that vision to a lot of our young people. As we're going out to places like Atlanta Metropolitan, we're asking our command staff to be guest speakers at a lot of the local colleges and universities and trying to sell and pitch that vision to a lot of the young college students so that we're attracting the type of workforce that we really want to see within the city of South Fulton Police Department. You can go on to the next slide. I mentioned earlier that we're looking at policy development. We want to be really good stewards of the money that you all are going to give to us. We want to make sure that we're protecting the city's investment. And so we're looking at a lot of different policies as it relates to retention and hiring bonuses and making sure that we protect the city's interests. And so that's one of the things I've asked Lieutenant Jubal to get started on. He heads up our planning and research department. And he also works in the Office of Professional Standards. You can go on to the next slide. Okay, so I do have Lieutenant Jubal on the line right now, and I really would like for him to say a few words before we go into the question and answer session, because he had the opportunity to speak with a number of our police officers and what this program would actually mean to them. Lieutenant Rogers.
Thank you, Chief. As mentioned, my name is Lieutenant Rogers, assigned to the Planning and Research Section at Office of Professional Standards. Yeah, I spoke to some of the officers. I think, pretty much speaking on their behalf, this recommendation, if approved, is a step in the right direction for us to continue to attract, hire, and retain, the best South Fulton PD officers. We have some of the best trained officers in the region that have worked tirelessly during the pandemic and other recent events. Just speaking offhand, we've lost a few officers to Sandy Springs, another premier agency in Fulton County. And during the background and recruitment process for candidates who have made it, towards the end of the process, we've lost candidates throughout the process to other agencies when they've accepted other offers to competing agencies who offer these retention and hiring bonuses as well. Just speaking from the officers, recruiting from qualified applicant pools and retaining these best officers is going to be a challenge in the next few months and years to come. So it's important that we continue to get ahead of this. And I think the officers they're thankful that this has been brought before City Council for recommendation. And we think this is a step in the right direction to assist us in our retention and recruitment efforts, and also to help boost morale in the police department.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Rogers. Now, having said that, we'll open up the floor for comments. or questions?
All right, I see Mayor Pro Tem Willis in the queue.
Yes, and so thank you for your presentation. Chief Meadows, is this money coming from the American Rescue Plan? Is this the recommendation to fund this?
Well, that was one of the things we really wanted to talk with the body about. We could conceivably use a salary savings, or we could use another funding source, but it's essentially it would be something that we would sit down with the city manager and finance in an effort to try to identify the funding source. Right now, I believe that we have about 28 unfilled positions, and we would be looking at leveraging those salary savings in an effort to pay out these hiring and retention bonuses.
And so, Ms. Sadler-Jones, I will recommend that you get with Chief Meadows and the CFO and come up with a plan to fund this recommendation. And I would suggest that you look to salary savings first. I do know that this is a problem across the nation, not only across the state, not only across Metro Atlanta, but we do not want to put our selves in a position where we are losing officers to other agencies because we're not remaining competitive in salary. And as stated, yes, the sheriff office is looking to a $9,000 bonus, but I also want to make sure that we make sure that if we are giving bonuses, that it does come with some type of contract that will make the officers commit to staying with our city. And then possibly, I don't know how we can legally do this, but I will also look at if we can look to a criteria to compensate officers to live in our city as well. Some type of compensation bonus or put it apart. I mean, I don't know if we can legally do that. At one point I was told that we could not. That would be, well, I would ask if we can legally do that, that we look to that as well. The other question, Ms. Sadler-Jones, I know that this is a presentation for police, but what about the fire? I mean, is Chad Jones, Chief Chad Jones, going to bring forth some type of recommendation as far as retaining and attracting fire personnel as well? Because I just don't want to look at public safety, retention, and recruiting as a whole.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, I would definitely think that if we are doing it for the police department, we should be doing it for our fire personnel as well. So I will get with Chief Jones and discuss this with him. He and I haven't had a chance to, but definitely it would be my recommendation that if the council is supportive of doing this for police, that we also do it for fire.
Okay, well, I can't speak for the entire council, but I'm definitely supportive of some of these suggestions that have come before us. But the only thing that I wish would have been brought before us is a sound way of how we were going to fund this, because, you know, we have to, that's to me, that's very important. How are we going to fund this? And looking to salary savings will be the first way. Can confiscated funds be used for any of this?
You can't use confiscated funds for salaries. Normally,
Okay.
but normally budgeted items you're not able to use confiscated funds for.
Okay, so I will look if you can, Chief Meadows, for me. Can you find out if we can compensate our officers if they, or give them some type of bonus if they live in our city as well? Also, if we could tie this to, like a lot of agencies are doing, if we give them this bonus, they have to commit to our city agency 3 to 5 years. I don't know what the going rate is, or they have to pay the money back if they leave before that time. And you already, look to education and experience as well. I always thought it was foolish to bring officers in at one flat base rate and not look at and give them some type of extra compensation based on their experience and education, because that matters when you're talking about law enforcement. Thank you.
Absolutely. And so, Councilwoman, the housing incentives for public safety personnel is going to be rolled out of the city manager's office, I believe, next month. City manager?
Yes, we should have that rolled out by next month. Our HR department, along with my office, and we have representatives from police and fire, are looking at the details of that program, and the council, you all voted to fund the program based upon a pilot program. And of course, we are looking to kick that off. And then if it's successful, it would be my recommendation, that we provide that funding in future budgets as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Those are all the questions that I have at this time. Mayor, I yield.
Thank you. And I usually wait to the end, but Mayor Pro Tem Willis, so many of our, you mirrored so many of our thoughts. I do just want to ask a few follow-up questions. I am also concerned. I do think that these are great benefits. I love Madam City Manager incentivizing officers to live in our city. Many studies have shown that when officers live in communities and when officers have degrees, Sandy Springs, which have much larger budgets. And so I just want to make sure, as we are scaling up our police department, that we are considering the cost of these benefits, not only for the number of officers that we have now, but what it might cost to continue and maintain them in future years as our numbers increase. I also agree with Mayor Pro Tem Willis around the contractual obligations. Some people may be surprised to know this, but at one time I was applying to be a police officer, and I applied to be a firefighter. I think I just like the CPAT test. But in Gwinnett, I believe that they sign their officers to a 4-year contract, and each year, if they leave in the first year, they have to reimburse 100%. 75% in the second year, and so on and so forth. I believe that is how it works. And it is not just for the bonuses, but for the entire cost of training. And I am just wondering, Chief Meadows, had you thought about that? Because you did say it costs over $100,000 really to train an officer.
Yes, we've looked at that, and we've looked at the state law allows us to maintain our investment for the first 2 years once we put someone through the police academy. And we've had pretty good success with maintaining those employees. Well, we're coming up on the end of a large portion of our police officers that we hired there. And so when we look at, or you talk about maintaining that, you're looking at 43 police officers, which comes to roughly around at $100,000, $4.3 million that we've invested in these people. And when we talk about, the amount of money that we're talking about, is really pennies on the dollars in comparison to the initial investment that we made. And so for us to continue to build on our workforce and to continue to attract the type of people that we want in the South Fulton Police Department, this is going to be essential that we think outside the box and continue to be a little innovative with respect to our approach to this issue.
Awesome. And thank you so much for that correction. So you're saying that state law prohibits us from recouping expenses after 2 years. So whatever we put in after 2 years, an officer in any municipality can then move on.
Right. They can move on after that too, and see where we're up against that window now. So we just want to make sure that we maintain that initial investment.
Understood. I see in the queue Dr. Rao, Councilman Sebastian, and I see Councilman Reeves' hand raised, so I will go to him after Councilman Sebastian. And one more quick note: I am seeing some comments in the chat that the sound went out. We have been talking with Mr. Hammonds. Apparently, the power went out where he was, but we are going to have a video with all of the sound available after this meeting. And with that, I will go to Dr. Rao.
Thank you for that presentation, and I mirror the sentiments of my colleagues. I fully support this, and I want to thank the city manager because I approached her about housing for police a very long time ago, and I'm glad that it's forthcoming and you'll be presenting next month. As we think about, how we continue to kind of continue our trend of reducing crime across our city, which we've had much success over since our incorporation. I look forward to us as a body supporting this initiative. So I look forward to hearing also from Chief Jones about what structure makes sense for the fire department going forward to make sure we keep our firefighters with our department. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Chief Meadows, for that presentation. I just want to echo the sentiments as our mayor and council, Member Willis and Royal, that I'm in full support of some incentive program, and taking into consideration that we may not be able to compete with the sheriff and Atlanta or even Fulton County with their bigger budgets. However, I'm in support of what we can do, some program that will help us to attract and maintain the talent that we need for our city. I have one question, I guess it's a new guy question for Chief Meadows.
Yes.
And I may have a follow-up. At what age, what's the minimum age of recruiting someone into the police department?
The minimum age is 21 years of age. And so we've hired people at the age of 20, but you have to be 21 by the time you graduate from the police academy.
Okay, good. So, which means we're not recruiting folks certainly out of high school, but are we recruiting folks from the colleges around?
That's the one. That's a huge initiative for us. As we send people to leadership classes, we're asking them to go to places like Clark Atlanta, Atlanta Metro, Georgia State, and be guest speakers. We have quite a few of our top level people within the organization going to these different institutions and being guest speakers. And we believe that helps in the way of recruitment, especially when we're casting our vision for the organization. We just want to let these young people know in college that we're on the cutting edge of technology. And certainly everybody wants to be part of that, as we move into the new era of policing.
Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Councilman Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for recognizing me. Chief, I just want to thank you for implementing the implementation plan from the 21st Century Policing Resolution, and to Captain Tooch for increasing the visibility with Coffee with a Cop, and for Lieutenant Rogers for increasing our digital communication with community policing. And I fully support and share all the sentiments my colleagues shared, and fully support this effort. And as stated, we would like to have fire involved as well. And so we can get all our first responders. Me personally, I would like to see, even though it might not be popular, all of the educators within the city of South Fulton who live in the city of South Fulton, be considered as well. And just keep doing a great job. And thank you for constantly reducing the crime, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Reeves. I'm not sure that we could compensate educators. I think that that would be for the Fulton County Board of Education, but I definitely, who has a much larger budget than all of us, if you have seen your property tax bill. So but I think that's definitely something we can talk to Ms. Dove and Mr. Looney about. All right, so sound the next item, Mr. Clerk.
Yes, sir. The next item is item 3, which is city calendar. And this discussion is going to be led by you. I would like to point out that this item does include 3 items which were included in the agenda package, which is the city events calendar, a wellness days draft resolution, and a Kwanzaa holiday draft resolution.
All right, so we will take these I guess individually. The first, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Oh, I was going to do it for you.
Oh no, it's fine. Would you allow me to share my screen? I have a draft document. I want us to try and write some things in this document as we go forward. Do I have that ability, sir?
Yeah, you have that ability.
And then I am going to let you share when we get to these other items. So we'll talk about the wellness days and the Kwanzaa holiday. But one of the things that I have been very passionate about is making sure that we have a master calendar for the entire year of events, which I think not only builds a sense of community, but I think Mr. I'm going to ask Madam City Manager if Mr. Leftwich could chime in about this, but it helps both, and Mr. Landrum, it helps both our Bureau of Cultural Affairs and our communications department to plan ahead. I think sometimes I know that I have come to the communications manager or to the Parks Department and say, hey, I want to do this thing. And, maybe we didn't give enough time for those departments to really gear up for that. Maybe there were other council people that were having other events or other things were being planned in the city. So I believe that just having this calendar of events will really help us going forward. Would it be all right, Madam City Manager, for our communications director to chime in about that?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Absolutely any chance we have to get a head start on planning and be proactive certainly helps us in planning the event, and it also helps make the event much better if we have time to plan. So this is very beneficial. We have as record the city's website calendar as the official calendar of events, and we keep that updated with everything that is submitted to us. And so we are able to, with these, we will be able to build that calendar out further.
And with that calendar, Mr. Leftwich, is it a month-to-month calendar? Can people look at the entire year to see what events have already been scheduled?
Yes, you are able to click, and then as with most calendar applications, you can forward through the months, and each calendar comes up with a month with specific days in it.
All right, and what we talked about this briefly, and I'm going to ask our IT director, when possible. I know there are many things on your plate, and it's a small department, but for some businesses, when you go to their website and you see a calendar of events, you can click a button and add that event to your own calendar. Whether you have iCal or Google Calendar or whatever. And so I would love to have that functionality for events. And with that, I am going to open this up to all members of council if you have events. And I would also, if you see an event that is missing that you know that you're going to have, that we can let Mr. Leftwich know about, if you could let us know about those events, that would be super helpful. All right, Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
So I'm a little confused. We're already doing this. What is different from what we're already doing? Mr. Leftwich already sends out requests periodically asking us for events 4 and 5 months ahead to inform the communications department. If we are involved in park and recreations, we have a request form that we have to complete to send to park and recreation. If media is needed, then we copy Mr. Leftwich in. He sends out a weekly calendar of events of everything that happens in park and recreation. Early on, he sent us and he probably needs to resend it, instructions on how to update our Outlook so that we could see all events that are taking place in the city, whether it's a council event, whether it's a park and recreation event. If everyone is following protocol and submitting events through communication and through park and recreation, he puts all of the stuff on the calendar and we can see it through our Outlook calendar. Correct, Mr. Leftwich? Weren't you the one to send out instructions on how to do that to the entire mayor and council and staff?
Yes, that is correct. We did send that out. It's been several months ago, and we absolutely can send it again this week.
Okay, because my LS set mine up and I was able to. Now, what typically happens is sometimes council members have events and they don't follow protocol. They don't send information through communication. They don't fill out this facility request through Parks and Recreation. And sometimes where we are sometimes butting heads is when staff don't know stuff is happening. So we are already doing this. I guess, Mayor, what are you asking us to do different from what we're already doing? We're already doing this.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Willis. Mr. Leftwich, has that process been working out for the communications department? Do you feel that this is not a necessary exercise to go through right now?
I think the value in this lies in the fact that it gets everything, especially major events, on one page, and it sort of is a duplication of the calendar. However, what you've got on here is research that has identified dates for this year, and when we do put out those requests each month, there are a lot of things that are not included that then we find out about later. So anything that could help the process and flow of information that we receive, because not only are we able to prepare better for events, but people are able to look at that calendar for specific dates if they are considering those dates for an event of their own and realize that date is taken. I don't need to plan something. I need to go to another day. So anything we can do to enhance use of the website calendar is beneficial.
And so I still have the floor, if you don't mind. Like, you have things on here that I organize, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do the event in September or October. And so some of these events have not been planned out. And what I don't recommend that we do is have two separate calendars. We need to make sure we are doing what we are currently doing, and that is keeping everything. Let staff drive this calendar, and we submit our information to communications, which is what we're already doing once we get things planned out. To sit here and try to figure out what we're going to do from January to December is going to be time consuming. And I'm pretty sure, especially the new council members who are coming on, they haven't really thought out what they want to do community outreach wise. They may have some ideas, but I'm pretty sure they haven't planned it out. And as we plan out our activities, you know, we can send that information to communications like we already do, and communication will put that information on a calendar. And I would ask Mr. Lethbridge to please resend the instructions to everyone so we will know how to update our Outlook so everybody can see, you know, what's going on. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you. And I agree, Councilman Willis. We definitely don't want to duplicate calendars. This is not meant to be a published calendar anywhere, but just a collection, as Mr. Lethbridge has said. If we know that we have major events, if you're not sure about doing the Yeek Fest, I will take that off of the calendar. But what I am hoping that we can do is create a practice that at the beginning of each year, that every January, we can think long term about the year ahead and what events, what major events we think that we might have, just to give our department heads as much time as possible. So what we'll do is, after, we're just going to spend a few minutes on this exercise. Mr. Lethbridge, I will, whatever things are added in, I will make sure that you get that so that you can incorporate that into our city calendar online before you send instructions out, so that when you do send those instructions out, all of these events will also be included. Dr. Rao.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to echo too much about what Councilwoman Willis said. I think the current process has generally worked well. Even when I was not aware of events, I found myself in a position where I could go to the city's website, click on the calendar, and it not only allows me to see city-sponsored events, but all the various boards that we already have operating when they're meeting. So that's been extremely helpful. I just had a question. This might be a question for maybe our city attorney or maybe the city manager. I know on this list we have a number of events. All of them are not city sponsors event. We are not suggesting that we put outside events on this calendar, correct?
It would be my recommendation, Councilmember Rao, that this would be only for city-sponsored events. And I will share some information with the council, and I'll email it to you from my previous organization. Just an example of city-sponsored events. The council did approve it at the beginning of the year, and it was helpful for our communications team at that particular municipality to push out, you know, brochures and calendar information so people knew from January through December specifically what city-sponsored events were going to be planned for a particular calendar year. I wouldn't, you know, necessarily recommend any events that are not sponsored by the city to, you know, basically answer your question.
So for this calendar, it would be like State of the City, Juneteenth, that kind of thing would be on this calendar that we would kind of promote to residents.
Yes, that would be my recommendation, that it would be those type of specific city-sponsored events.
Okay, and then one other question. What are the wellness days?
We're going to talk about that next. These have been separate agenda items, but we're going to talk about the calendar and then the wellness days and then these and then this resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask Madam City Manager, with the city sponsored events or whoever might be able to answer, is, for example, the Old National Merchants Association 5K, that is not necessarily a city sponsored event, correct?
Mayor, I'm not familiar with that particular event unless one of the staff people are. Any staff or anybody in parks familiar with that event?
So I think so. This is a perfect example. I think that, and I'll ask Chief Meadows to speak to this. So this event is sponsored by the Old National Merchants Association. However, members of councils from both College Park and the city of South Fulton are there. They have a presence. We have tables, but more importantly, we shut down a lane of Old National Highway for a few hours that morning. And so, though it is not a city-sponsored event, our police department is involved in that event. And I think those are the kinds of major events that I think that should be included. Chief Meadows, would you want to chime in on that?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, Mayor?
This is not a city-sponsored event, but will you just talk about what the police department does do for the Old National 5K?
Well, historically, it's been an off-duty job. They would hire off-duty police officers to come in and work. Now, normally, if we adopt something as a city-sponsored event, then we provide those services. If it's not anything the city is willing to adopt, then we usually require that it be in terms of off-duty employment.
And how does it work with shutting down a lane on Old National Highway, which is a state route?
We have to get permission from DOT. If it moves along with the traffic, then we're usually fine. But if we're talking about blocking off traffic, then we have to get permission from DOT to or permit through DOT to have the event.
And do you, the police department, apply for that permit, or does the Old National Merchants Association apply for that?
The vendor would, the host would have to apply for it.
All right. And are you copied on that? What involvement do you have with getting that?
We would actually have to approve the event application. And in that event application, we would have to see where they've made application to the state to close a lane, where they have their security plan in place. And so we would sign off to see if it's sufficient for the number of individuals that they're talking about. Also, whether or not fire has weighed in on EMS support as well.
Thank you. And so I do think that whether or not we promote them as city events, Madam City Manager, I do think that when we have our public safety officers, whether on duty or off duty, when they are working these events, I think it's just something for us to be cognizant of as a city. Councilman Sebastian.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm in favor. Every organization, I think, needs an overall calendar. But I think I heard Madam City Manager said for specific city events, city-sponsored events, and I think we need to make sure we're not taking up more than we should, because there are major events, I think, that happen all over the city that sometimes need our police department support and maybe other resources that are not necessarily listed here, but they may not be city events. And I think basically how it does work in the past is that people have made these requests for support, and the police department decide whether they're going to support or not based on resources. But I do agree that having a big overall calendar at the beginning of the year for the major city events should be in order. But I'm saying that also without the knowledge of knowing how the city calendar works, except what I've looked on as a citizen. So I look forward to learning more about that process, Mr. Communications Director. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Reeves.
Yes, thank you. I want to know, Madam Jones, what constitutes a city event as it's defined? And also then when we have subsequent events that we're doing on behalf of the city, what constitutes a council-sponsored event, and can you give us the difference?
We have, the city has an ordinance, I believe, that defines what a city-sponsored event is. And I'm sorry, I don't have it right here in front of me, and I may have to follow up and provide that information to you, but I do know that it also mentions that if, I believe, 2 or 3 council members plan an event, that's considered a city-sponsored event as well. But I apologize, I don't have that information right here in front of me.
Councilman Reeves,
City Manager.
Go ahead.
Councilman Reeves, the board passed resolution 2019-052. It's entitled a resolution promoting administrative clarity, regulating events, and for other lawful purposes. And in section 1, it says a city event shall be defined as an event where the public is invited by city officials and or city administration to recognize, discuss, and or address city topics, activities, events, or legislation. And I'm skipping down to the authorization part. It says all proposed city events shall be brought before the city council for approval prior to holding an event. Such approval shall be obtained in advance and notice of the event being circulated. So that resolution I can go ahead and forward to you, everyone, so they can look at it while they're considering this topic.
No, thank you, because that's for the edification of the public. And so, you know, because right, we do know that ordinance is in place. And then the subsequent question is if 3 or more have it, it's considered a city event. But if 1 council member has it, and I want to ask this as it pertains to the city seal, the city logo. If a council member has an event, will we be able to put the city seal and city logo on that? Because that subsequently belongs to the city. And if they see that logo, they will just automatically dub it a city event.
I think that if a city council member is having an event, that you should be able to use the city logo.
Okay.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because Mr. Leftwich and I in his office are planning to bring forth to the council a branding policy. So that information will be included in regards to proper uses of the city logo.
Thank you, Madam Jones.
All right, and we're going to close out this part of the conversation with Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you pull up your calendar again, if you don't mind?
Not at all. Here we are.
So the Divine Nine 5K race is not a city-sponsored event. It started out at Welcome All Park, and I do help them organize it, and several other council members have helped them organize it, and we do partner with them, but they pay for police. We don't, and we got to be careful when we say city events. We don't want to deem everything to be a city event, because that's the way some of our police officers and fire personnel get compensated for part-time off-duty work when they have to come in and put in extra hours. For example, the Peachtree Road Race is a historical event that happens every year in the city of Atlanta. That's not a city of Atlanta sponsored event. That's a separate organization sponsoring that event. I think it's the AJC. And so that is not a city sponsored event. The Yeet Festival is not a city sponsored event. I work with the organizers and I help put it on, but it's not a city sponsored event. I'm looking at some of the other things that's on here. You mentioned the Old National Merchants Association. That's not a city, ONM 5K, that's not a city sponsored event. And also the ONAT Day, I don't recall that being a city sponsored event either. But I do, so maybe this is something that we can take up, spend more time in when we do the retreat on, how many city sponsors event we want to have, what city sponsored event should be.
Performance vehicles.
I'm sorry.
The Porsche brand, unless you go
Go ahead.
I mean, that would just be my recommendation, because it just seems like this conversation is just going way off. And I'm going to continue to submit myself the way that the policy that we've already have in hand, which is through communications. And hopefully we can build upon. I'm just confused on, you're saying this is going to be a city sponsored event calendar, and I'm just confused about why we got to have two different calendars. That just seems to be more confusing, but maybe we can build upon this process. I appreciate you trying to do this, but I do think it's helpful for us all to, be aware of what's happening in the city, especially when we're trying to plan things. We won't try to pull on the same resources, if you know what I mean. Because if you're having something, I don't want to be having. If you're having on that day, I definitely don't want to plan a Yeek Festival the same day you're having on that day, because we're going to need police and fire at the same event, and that can be overwhelming to staff too. So I do appreciate you. We do need to perfect this, but I don't know if we're going to be able to get through that right now.
No, are you done? Are you done?
Yes, I yield.
And you're absolutely right. I think this is what work sessions are for, is sometimes to begin these discussions. And as you were talking, the Peachtree Road Race was the perfect example. It is put on by the Atlanta Track Club, and I think also the AJC. It's not a city-sponsored event, but it certainly has an impact on the city. And as a cultural event, it is a cultural institution, right, that the city of Atlanta is proud to have. And so I think as we are thinking about both coordinating our resources, but also building a sense of identity here in our city, we know that there are, for example, a lot of members of fraternities and sororities. So the Divine Nine, I think, really speaks, that 5K really speaks to the culture that we have here in the city. And so I think it's important as we think about events that, and perhaps we can have some delineation on our website calendar of what are city-sponsored events, and we can have, this event sponsored by this organization, but to really be thinking about what events, whether it's a Divine Nine 5K or an Old Nat Day, things that really speak to the culture of our city and enhance that sense of identity for City of South Fulton residents. And speaking of identity and culture, we are going to end. This is the final comment for this topic with our professor, Dr. Mark Baker.
Thank you for recognizing me. Sorry. I think that, and really, I think you covered towards the end what my comment was. I think that many of these events, we have partnered with those individuals, and I think our involvement has made it a city-sponsored event, as Councilman Reeves said, when we're a part of it, and as the city manager contended, when we're a part of those events and bringing resources to them, it then becomes city-sponsored events. I guess it's that partnership, because I think that, for example, the Old National Merchants Association, I don't think police have ever been compensated, but I think that somebody has probably been affiliated with the event and took on some type of sponsorship with it, and that's how that, the amalgamation of those partnerships came together. And I don't know how intimately the city of Atlanta is with the Peachtree Road Race, for example. But I think that we need to, going forward, figure out these things, because I took a different position with organizations like Panhandle because of our closeness to the events in the city of South Fulton. And we have an opportunity to chart our own course, and we can figure it out as we go along. So I appreciate you bringing this up. I yield.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Dr. Baker. in our chat, Dr. Rao pointed out one of the places that we do have the biggest conflict is when we are having back to school events. So hopefully we will be able to work, Mr. Lethwidge, with you more on that. I know that can be 7 districts having multiple back to school events. That's usually very overwhelming for our staff. So let's be thinking about that as we go ahead. And again, we're in January, so the farther out we can plan these things, the more planning, the better. And with that, we're going to go on to, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Mr. Adams. We are short on time, so I just want to take a few minutes and maybe just get a few comments. I'm going to combine these topics together, and there are, if you looked on that calendar, you did see, Dr. Rao, wellness days, as well as Kwanzaa and the summer break. And so these are 3 different proposals. I believe Dr. Baker is co-sponsoring this Kwanzaa holiday with me, so I'm actually going to start with that one. We would like, it is my intention to make Kwanzaa a holiday as an African American cultural celebration from December 26th to January 1st. There would also be a summer week off, which would be the first week of July from the 5th through the 8th. So we would be giving employees a week off in December and a week off in July, a summer break and a winter break. The Kwanzaa holiday would be an actual holiday, so we would need a FIS for that, and it would come up in the 2023 budget, so we don't have to worry about it in this year's budget. The way that we yes, we are submitting these through they are heading through the legislative process now. I believe that you all got these items both from me and now in this public work session. The way that the summer Fridays would work and the summer week off, right? So these are ideas that I've been thinking deeply about. How can we make our city more competitive? We've heard from Chief Meadows that we are competing with, our police departments are competing with other cities, but actually all of our employees are competing with other cities. We have had some issues attracting employees, and this is, I'm taking this page from corporate America, my friends there, and even in other nonprofits. New York University, my best friend is a dean there. They have summer Fridays off. And the idea that Ms. Graham and I came up with, and I hate that she's not here today to provide further explanation, but is to create a new class of benefits which are called wellness days. So these would not be formal holidays, which means that those public safety and other essential staff who have to work these days would not get time and a half or double time or overtime for these hours. We have created, for these days, we have created numerous amounts of benefits for our public safety employees. We're looking at, we have take-home cars, we have gladiator pay, we have $1,000 checks. We're looking at benefits for living in the city for public safety employees. So this is, in some sense, an effort to bring some equity to the benefits that we're offering. All of our employees are important and invaluable. And so this is really more of a benefit for non-essential employees. And for those people that are working in City Hall, we would close City Hall on Fridays in the summer. If we were to pass these, we would close City Hall on Fridays in the summer from May to August. So May, June, July, and August, employees would have summer Friday. They would have the Fridays off in the summer if they want to take long trips or just, have that personal day for their own mental wellness. And the same would also be true for that first week in July. It would be a special benefit for non-essential employees. This would actually create around 19 days off in the summer for our employees. It would be, I think, in addition to really being groundbreaking, I think that, HR Director Graham agrees, this would be a very attractive incentive for people who are looking at applying for the city of South Fulton. And the best part about it is the way that it is constructed through this creation of a new wellness category, it would be revenue neutral to the city. And I see Ms. Graham has joined us, and so I will ask if Madam City Manager, if she could just make a few comments about that.
Yes, sir. That's fine.
Good evening, Mayor and council members and City Manager. Thank you for allowing me to speak. Can you all hear me as well?
Yes.
I do apologize. I wasn't on earlier, Mayor. I'm dealing with my daughter being ill this evening, but I just wanted to piggyback on what you were saying. Yes, so the mayor was introducing wellness days, and those wellness days would be the Fridays, May through August as wellness days. And again, where employees, we would write this up in the legislative that if employees are able, based on their responsibilities in scheduling, the city would be closed. So if they are available to take the day off, they will have those days off. If they were not available to take those days off because it is something that requires them, like public safety positions, it would be a regular work day for those individuals. The thought process being is there are things that do benefit the public safety that don't benefit the remaining employees. So the mayor wanted to kind of stretch something across the board that identifies essential employee, as well as essential employees, non-essential employees with some type of break or wellness period. And as he mentioned, the Kwanzaa holiday, of course, would be from the 26th of December to the 1st of January. That would be for all employees. And that would be something we would look into the 22-23 budget, as he advised. So I provided documentation for the mayor. He wanted to have research on wellness days, mental health days, and just kind of having days, especially during the height of the world right now with COVID, a lot of stressful things with people having to, like even myself, having to be off with the care of a family member. It can get pretty stressful on the employees. So he wanted to kind of offer something that would be beneficial for the employees as well as recognizing non-essential employees. So just wanted to kind of piggyback on what you were saying.
Thank you. We are over time for our zoning hearing, so we're just going to go through these. I'm just going to ask for a few minutes. I'm going to ask everyone to maybe speak only once. This is a work session, so we will be able to talk about these points further in the coming weeks before our 25th meeting. And with that, I will recognize Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
So I'm just trying to get a clear understanding. You're saying you're proposing that we have 19 days off. Employees, non-essential employees have 19 days off in the summer, and you want to create the 7 days of Kwanzaa as a holiday as well. And so we won't have any city production or anything going on. The residents won't be able to get any service during these 19 days or 7 days of Kwanzaa you're proposing.
Yes, that is correct. There were the Kwanzaa falls between the 26th and the 1st. We have gotten into a really bad habit over the years of having council meetings in between Christmas and New Year's. So creating this will give us a break as well as all of our city employees. And I think that it will create we are creating a culture where we are celebrating a work-life balance. But yes, that is the proposal.
And so have you looked at other creative ways to celebrate Kwanzaa besides shutting down work production or services to residents? Like, for example, in Savannah, they have what you call Kwanzaa Crawl, and where they are going to and featuring African American businesses every day of the week doing Kwanzaa, and doing some type of ceremony at these businesses. That's just my only question, is that we try to not create holidays and shut down services to residents for every single holiday. I do believe in commemorating them, especially Kwanzaa, but I just need more information, because I'm a little skeptical about shutting down service when we have already residents complaining about our service level is not up to par as is.
Thank you. Councilwoman Gums? Councilwoman Gums, are you there? Okay, we're going to go
I'm sorry, I am here. I was speaking on mute, so I apologize. Thank you for recognizing me. What cities or other municipalities have implemented something similar to this that we could research to just kind of get some feedback on it? And then also, too, have you looked at the financial impact that this may possibly have on the city? I know Councilwoman Willis just mentioned about city services, but I'm very curious as to what other cities have kind of instituted something similar to this.
All right. So again, with the financial impact, the way that we've written these wellness days, it would be revenue neutral. I believe that we will be the first city in Georgia to offer this sort of package. There are a lot of private corporations that are offering this. So again, it's not just about creating these holidays for holidays' sake, but trying to come up with some creative ways to be competitive with the budget that we have. And Ms. Sadler-Jones, did you want to talk about the city in Texas where you came from?
Yes, the mayor had shared, his idea with me, and I told him that when I worked for a city in the Houston area, although the city worked 40 hours a week, they would work Monday through Thursday from 8 until 5, but then Friday was 8 to 12. So it was almost a shorter work day, and employees enjoyed it because they were able, to go out of town. If they wanted to leave early, they were able to run their errands before everybody else got off of work. They could do their grocery shopping. And it was just something that the city instituted, which really ended up being a good morale booster for employees, because they enjoyed getting off at 12 noon on Fridays. So I told the mayor, I said, I would think that, employees would be open to something like this, but, based upon the way it was explained to me, as long as it's revenue neutral, I think it would be a good benefit. And it's specifically for a summertime when we know that employees are used to, being able to go on vacation and do things like that. It's done other places, but not specifically, maybe like this situation.
Thank you. Did you have anything else, Councilwoman Gums?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Dr. Rao.
I too would like more information on the financial impact. I think the model that was proposed, where you might look at half a day, would be something that I'd be open to entertaining. I do think the number of days seems on the high end. So I definitely would like more information to come back. And I would like to see how this also impacts our essential workers from the standpoint that how would they benefit from this, because they're 24/7, you know, how whatever, if it's brought back as a recommendation, I would want them to equally benefit. And I don't know that I would just want to see how our public safety personnel in particular would fare in this kind of scenario.
Thank you. And we're going to close out with Dr. Reeves. I'm going to speak things that aren't as though they were. Mr. Reeves, Councilman Reeves.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess this question is for Chief, and I just want to ask this: when are the alcohol licenses due to the city?
The alcohol license are being assigned as we speak. I've just signed off on a batch of them the other day, and so they'll be going out, and all of the businesses should have them by the end of this month.
Okay, right, but the application stuff is due by December the 31st?
I'm sorry?
Are the applications due by December the 31st?
All of the renewals have been submitted, but yes, they are due by December 31st.
Okay, so subsequently they would now be due on the 23rd if we do the holiday.
Jermaine?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. They're due on December 15th. I apologize.
Okay, all right, then. Okay, all right. That kills the question. Thank you, sir.
I got you.
I was trying to follow you, Mr. Reeves, but you were asking about if we instituted this Kwanzaa holiday, would it affect the application for business license or alcohol license?
The alcohol license, right, which could create a problem because it's, everybody's cheering, and so if they don't get that in, then they won't have a license, and so some people, wait to that last minute or during that period of time, the day of, to get it in, and so that could have created a problem or an issue for some. I was just bringing up a little point.
All right, thank you, and noted. And he did say they were due on the 15th. I'm going to call Ms. Graham to close us out.
So just in closing, I know that Councilwoman Dr. Rao wanted to know about the essential employees as well. So one of the thought process that Mayor had with the essential employees is that we do offer things for the essential employees, like, for example, the grants that come through right now where they are benefiting from the $1,000. That's one of the things that non-essential employees don't benefit from or don't receive. So we were trying to find things where it may not be beneficial across the board for everyone, but we're looking for something that you'll benefit at this time, this group will benefit at this time, and then in Kwanzaa being one that everybody will benefit from, so that we can keep it as payroll neutral as possible.
Awesome. All right, and with, I'm going to skip the. I hate that we won't get to talk a bit about the council committees, but I've talked about it publicly. I know we'll talk about it. I hope that we will be able to talk about it more privately. The idea is just, if you'll just leave that, if you'll scroll down real quick for me, and just leave it there where the list of the committees are, the 7 committees. So in cities of our size, Macon, Atlanta, Augusta, Savannah, these places, they have committees that are public and public facing, where we drive legislation through these council committees. And it could be possible, right? We are actually only obligated to have one council meeting per month. So it might be possible, after creating these committees and making some other changes, to eliminate the work session and then have individual committee meetings based on topics. So people who are interested in particular topics would be able to workshop legislation regarding those topics over several months. And that would be true not only for council members who might have particular interests in these items, but it would also be true for constituents who are, particularly interested in these items. And so like that is all I will say about that. I will say that HB 1019, the revised charter gives me the power to create these committees and then just appoint council people to them, right? That is what happens in, again, like cities like Macon and Augusta. The mayor assigns council members to committees. It is my hope that we would actually that I would like for council members to select committees on their own volition based in seniority order, which is, how it happens in Congress and how it happens in the state legislature. People go through these committees, but they are chosen in seniority order. So council members are able to pick the committees that they are most passionate about. We're going to take a few comments I see in the queue in this order. Dr. Rao, Mayor Pro Tem Willis, and Dr. Baker, and we're going to take just those three and then move to this last discussion item. So, Dr. Rao.
So if and this may be interpretation, while you have the authority to recommend the appointment or the creation of these boards and committees, they also have to be confirmed by the city council, is my read of the charter. So I just want clarification on that. And second, from a staffing point, we have various boards as it stands now that are completely autonomous, that residents participate in. And so my question is, from a staffing point, has the city manager or staff looked at how something like this would be staffed?
Well, Councilmember Rao, the mayor did provide me the proposed list. We even went through and I said, well, maybe you want to add this to that area. We have not specifically discussed the staff and what their responsibilities will be for any of these boards. No, ma'am, we have not.
Okay. So I would hope that, and I don't know if the city attorney is on in terms of how the process for creating any of these boards, because all of the other boards we've created have been created via ordinance and then had the vote of the council. So that's my first question. And two, I just think we need to, as we kind of think through some of these things that have been raised today, I hope we'll go deeper at our retreat to kind of figure this out, because I know right now we don't even have all the boards that we have created staffed, and given our shortage in staff across the city, I just wonder how realistic or practical this might be.
Thank you. Councilwoman Willis.
And thank you. And so the charter does call for, yes, you do have a right to establish boards and committees, but the council will have to confirm those. And when you did bring this up, I did confer with the city attorney, and he did advise that this would have to have city council confirmation. I am open-minded to having a discussion, but I do think that we need to vet this a little closer or in more detail at the retreat. I would recommend that you get the clerk or the city manager from the cities who use this type of structure with our same form of government. So City of Atlanta would not be a good idea because they're full-time employees and they spend all day in these committees. And sometimes I chime in to listen to some of their committee hearings. Savannah, I'm almost positive they do not have committees. So I'm not really sure where that information came from. But the only city with city council manager form of government that I am aware of that may have committees is the city of Douglasville. And so at the retreat, I would like to ask Ms. Sally Jones if you could reach out to the city manager, and Corey Adams if you could reach out to the clerk and maybe have them zoom in and give this council a little bit more direction on how this committee structure works for them. I am in agreement with Councilmember Rao. We have a lot of boards that are not fully staffed. This is going to require staffing, and I don't want to put more pressure on staff. And we are also part-time. We just have to remember we are part-time as well. The charter clearly states that. So we need to make sure we are giving part-time service when it relates to legislation. And I haven't. I'm gonna be honest with you, most of us haven't. So I just Mayor would like to, ask you to let's take this into to the retreat. The city manager and the city clerk is once we give them a date that we can all agree on, they typically plan our retreats. I'm looking forward to them bringing that planned retreat back to this council. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Baker. Dr. Baker, you're muted. Going once, going twice. All right, I'm just going to say a couple of closing comments. Thank you all so much. First, on the issue of the charter, I have a different reading of the charter. That's not my understanding about who can or cannot appoint committees. Are you there, Dr. Baker? Are you taking your hand down? Are you ready to speak?
It's fine. I yield.
Thank you. So I have a different opinion about that. However, whether I can do it unilaterally or not, it is my hope that we will do this together. I think very often we have seen things come to the agenda quickly that may have needed more thought. We have seen where we have made something illegal or a finable offense and it's had a noticeable impact on our court system because we just did not think through all of the impacts. We didn't workshop things enough. And so the idea is that this would actually slow down some of our legislation and give more time and thought. We've had issues where two different council members are working on and legislation addressing the same thing, and it's not maybe until we get to a council meeting that we see on the agenda there are these two things. So hopefully I think that having things go through committees would help us work through some of these processes. We are unique in our situation. We are a city manager form of government. We are by far the largest city manager form of government in the state, right? By population, by land area. So we have a sort of a hybrid system with unique challenges. Thank you for correcting me about Savannah, Mayor Pro Tem Willis. I will correct you about Atlanta. Though they are paid well, Atlanta's city charter actually lists their council people as part-time, and many of them do have full-time jobs. And so I do think that staffing and all of these things are things to take into consideration. Again, as you see in here, I propose to not even begin this until April 1st. This is something that I believe needs to be workshopped as much as other legislation. I will just ask, since it came up, do we have any more information, Madam City Manager, about a possible date for our retreat?
Yes, sir. When I sent out the information on administrative actions on January the 9th, I included a proposed or tentative date I would like for the council to consider. And that date, let me go to my calendar, is February the 23rd through the 25th. Wednesday, February 23rd, Thursday, February 24th, Friday, February 25th. But the city clerk and the assistant city manager and I are actually meeting on Thursday, and we were going to be sending out a doodle poll, that we've done, in the past to see what your availability is, and then we will use that to guide us on what that date is. But that is an initial date that we would like for you to consider. Of course, every time we're trying to plan these type of events, we're looking at, if there's a school, I know some of our school districts have winter breaks and holidays and things like that. We were trying to work around that, but that is an initial date for council's consideration. But we will send out a poll to look at some other dates if that one doesn't work.
All right, thank you. And then this last thing before we head into this zoning hearing is just a quick conversation. We have a vote coming up about the mayor pro tem. This is a proposal to amend the charter for the process of selecting the mayor pro tem, and I just want to say a little bit about it. First off, it will not affect the vote on January 25th, right? We have to have 2 reads before we affect a charter change. It may be not allowed. It may be something that we need to send through the charter review commission, but it does ask us to take a look at changing that process. And here is the reason why. I really want us, I'm really committed to staff development of our council. And I want to make sure that every member of council has an opportunity to be mayor pro tem. Now, in reality, if the mayor is just a figurehead position, then the mayor pro tem is even less than that, right? It only comes into play in the absence or incapacity of the mayor. So, if something were to happen to me, it would become very important. But otherwise, it is possible that the next mayor pro tem will never get to act in that position at all over the next year, unless you have a mayor who, on purpose, takes leaves of absences or sends that mayor pro tem to fill in to get that experience that they need. I know that it would have been, I think, very beneficial for me. I've been on this council for 5 years, and I never got to be the mayor pro tem. So I want to make sure that that doesn't happen for any other council meeting, any other council members. If you'll just scroll up, Mr. Adams, this proposes to have the mayor pro tem be selected. So it amends section 3.29 and another section 3.11b of the charter. But it proposes that we would select a mayor pro tem based on seniority, so that the most senior person who has never gotten the opportunity to serve in that position would have that opportunity. It would take the politics out of it. It would take the confusion about that we've had about when the election happens, because now at midnight on January 1st, the next most senior person who has not had that opportunity would be the mayor pro tem. And so if we were again, if we were to adopt this as a policy, we would have to vote that way on January 25th. I do not get a vote, but it is my hope that you would consider this policy if we were to adopt it. I believe the most senior person not to have served would be Mr. Corey Reeves, who's headed into his third year as a council person. And so the order would be, were we to adopt this policy, Corey Reeves, then Councilwoman Natasha Williams, who is more senior than Councilman J.C. Sebastian just by virtue of her winning her election 30 days before him. And so 2022, Councilman Reeves would be the mayor pro tem. 2023, Councilwoman Williams would be the mayor pro tem. And 2024, Councilman Sebastian would be the mayor pro tem. Everybody would get an opportunity, and then we would start it over again. And with that, I'm just going to open up the floor for a few quick comments, starting with Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
So, this is a question for legal. So the charter already states that no one council member can serve consecutively. So we already have to elect someone new every year. Do we have to change the charter to, or can we just make I know I'm working on updating or amending the administrative ordinance. Can this be a part of the administrative ordinance if we decided to go this route or take this recommendation where we just, the next senior person on council becomes mayor pro tem, being that the charter already states that we should elect one every year and a person can't serve consecutively. I think the only thing that this recommendation is stating from the mayor is that we should rotate it to the next senior person every year.
Councilman Willis, Mayor Pro Tem, when this topic was first brought up, depending on what the council decided will depend on whether or not, and I think Mayor Khalid mentioned whether or not this can be done as possible resolution through agreement of council, or if you're changing terms and things of that nature, then have to follow the charter text amendment. You are correct that the charter already does build in the election has to occur every year. And then if the council decides to say, for example, every year based on seniority and who is yet to serve, that will follow that model, then you're not in conflict with anything because you wouldn't be having somebody that would be serving more than 2 or more successive terms, and then that would be occurring each year. So you wouldn't even have to touch that section. But that's something, like I said, I'd have to wait. I was waiting to hear how the mayor and council decided which course of action they wanted to go before I really delved into what it would entail, whether or not it's going to be just a resolution or whether or not there would perhaps be some type of charter text amendment required.
Right. So the charter dictates 2 things. It dictates that we elect someone every year, and it also dictates that we can't choose the same council member consecutively. For example, I was the mayor pro tem this year, so there's no way I can be mayor pro tem next year. So it already dictates that. But the only thing the only thing Mayor Khalid is asking is that when we do choose the next person, it is chosen based on seniority. So it's not in conflict with what the charter is saying. He's just adding another caveat to it. He's just saying, when we vote, let it be the next senior person. So my question is, can we just do that by way of resolution instead of changing the charter?
Mayor Pro Tem, just for clarity, according to the charter, it says that no councilman shall serve 2 or more successive terms. So someone could be elected 2 successive terms. But like I said, like you mentioned, if the council were to adopt some type of procedural rules to say, okay, at the conclusion of every year, that in considering the next election cycle, we will take seniority and who's yet to serve into consideration, then you wouldn't run afoul or have to go through a text amendment, the text amendment process.
Okay, I yield.
Mr. Reeves, Councilman Reeves.
Okay, so thank you, Mr. Chair. So essentially, two is you just said, Attorney Hammond, that a council member can serve 2 or more, so they can serve back-to-back terms. It's possible with that charter as it reads now.
It says two or more successive terms would be 1 year, 1 year.
Correct. So subsequently, just say, for instance, on the 25th, we could re-elect Mayor Pro Tem Willis back to that position.
The charter would authorize that. Well,
Right.
if that was the will of the elected body.
Right. So this proposed charter amendment will ensure that it does go to the next senior person on council who has not served in that position before. So this would need to be a charter change.
The one as the strikeouts that are reflected on the screen would be a charter amendment. But if the council for procedural purposes, that when the time for the 1 year comes up, that they say we will take seniority who's yet to serve in consideration, then you would be in compliance with the charter.
And so if I could just clarify, Mr. Reeves, yeah, this change would actually eliminate the election so that it is an automatic selection. And it would, yes, eliminate the possibility of both someone serving 2 consecutive years, or what is also possible now is, 2 council people could switch off, right? So I could be at 1 year and then you could be at the other year. And then if we have the votes, I could be it again the next year and then you could be it the year after that. And other people would never get the opportunity to serve. So that is what it's hoping to prevent. But again, it won't be in place January 25th by the time we take the vote. So whether or not this passes as a formal amendment, we could as a group just agree to do this as a policy. I think that what we've seen, and we've gone through this with benefits, right, is that we made an agreement around benefits for council that was not memorialized on paper. And when enough people turned over, no one knew that agreement had been made. So that is the point of writing things in paper and making laws always, right, is to memorialize things for generations to come. But again, it is a choice that we could make as a council, or that you all actually make as
correct. And so this is basically a fair and balanced approach to ensure that everyone grows in their capacity as a colleague or a council member serving the city of South Fulton.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, I am going to ask that we hold executive session items. We are 45 minutes over, and we can have an executive session after the zoning hearing. Is that correct?
Mayor, if you moved, do a motion and get a vote on that, then you could not do that.
All right, so I will entertain such a motion.
So can we make that motion? Because we typically do not vote in work sessions. So can we just get a consensus on us doing that? And that would suffice, Attorney Hyman.
Well, as it relates to the work, you can get your consensus that you have a executive session, move to zoning.
Let me try it a different way. The agenda says executive session if needed. So I can just entertain a motion to close this work session. I just
that we close the work session.
executive session at the next meeting, which because an executive session, if needed, is also on that agenda. Is that correct, Mr. Adams?
Yes, that is correct.
Second.
Thank you.
All right, and will you carry that vote, Mr. Clerk?
It's a motion.
We lost.
The motion was to close the work session. And I vote yay.
Okay, I was on mute. We had a motion to close or adjourn the work session. Roll call vote. Councilmember Rao.
Yes.
Councilmember Gomes.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
Yes.
Councilmember Sebastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Baker. Councilmember Baker. We are adjourned at 6:47 p.m.
Do we need to just remain here? Are we going to reconvene in this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, that's at your pleasure. The only thing I ask is that you switch over in the Novus agenda system from the work session to the zoning public hearing. But you can call the next meeting to order at your pleasure.
Before we call the next meeting to order, are we still live to the public? Because I have an internal question.
Yes, we are.
We are still live.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and call the next meeting to order.
Okay, I can carry the roll call.
Yes.
It's okay, Mr. Chair.
Call the roll, yes.
The Honorable Khalid Kamau, Mayor.
Present.
The Honorable Catherine F. Ryle, District 1.
Yes.
The Honorable Carmelita Gums, District 2.
Present.
The Honorable Helen Z. Willis, District 3. The Honorable J.C. Sebastian, District 4.
Present.
The Honorable Corey A. Reeves, District 5.
Accounted for.
The Honorable Natasha Williams, District 6.
Present.
And the Honorable Mark Baker, District 7. Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
All right, would you sound the next or the first item?
Yes, the first item is rezoning variance and modification cases for presentation and public hearing only. The first is Z21-016, request to rezone from AG1 to CUP for 36 single-family homes. This is located at 0 West Stubbs Road and 3315 West Stubbs Road, located in District 2. I believe Mrs. Jackson or Mrs. Kiefer will be doing the presentation.
Yes, good evening, council members. I have received a request in writing from the applicant to defer this item to the March public hearing. So council has the option, I guess, to hear the item tonight or defer it to the March meeting.
Awesome. I will entertain a motion to defer.
I'd like to make a motion to defer to our March meeting.
Second.
Any discussion?
Oh, Mr. Mayor, because this is public hearing only.
You have to open the hearing.
Yeah, you do have to, if you want to hear, we do have people who submitted public comment. But let me, before I say that, if you may, I would like the city attorney. Do they have to vote to defer in the zoning public hearing since we typically don't take any votes in this meeting?
I'll allow Mr. McClendon to speak on that.
Thank you. This is Reginald McClendon, Assistant City Attorney. They would have to vote to defer that to the next work session for a public hearing at that point in time.
Thank you.
And Mr. McClendon, could I also ask a follow-up question? Would it be, if we vote to defer to that later date, would we also be voting to hold the comments to that date? Can we hold the public comment since we're not really hearing the item today?
That is correct. You would be holding those comments.
Thank you. Any other folks for discussion?
And so just for the record, I think I had a motion by Councilmember Gums. I don't know if I got a second.
Second by Rao.
All right, thank you.
All right. If there's no further discussion, please call the vote, Mr. Clerk.
This is a motion to defer this case, Z21-016, to the March zoning hearing. It's a motion by Councilmember Gums, seconded by Councilmember Rao. Roll call, Councilmember Rao.
Yes.
Councilmember Gums.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Willis. Mayor Pro
Yes.
Tem, thank you. Councilmember Sebastian.
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
And Councilmember Baker. That item is deferred 6-0.
All right, please sound the next item.
The next item, and actually there are two companion items. The first item is M21-007, request for modification of Z2008-0023, conditions 1A to allow a 146 unit townhome development instead of the previously permitted 114 unit townhome development. Condition 1C to reduce the required heated floor area from 2,000 square feet to either 1,850 square feet or 1,650 square feet. Condition 2A to replace the approved site plan. Condition 3A to coordinate with GDOT for future traffic improvements. This is located at 0 Camilton Road. It's located in District 1. And this case was deferred at the December 14th meeting.
So thank you. Can we scroll down a little bit to this presentation, please? Thank you. Next slide, please. So this is a zoning modification that was approved. It's a modification to a zoning case that was approved in 2008 by Fulton County. It allows 114 townhomes, and the applicant would like to increase the number of allowed townhomes actually to 146. We received an updated letter of intent from the applicant. The current minimum heated floor area is 2,000 square feet. They are offering two different floor plans. One will have 1,850 square feet. The other will have 1,850 square feet. And the applicant would also like to make some amendments to the site plan. We actually received a new site plan from the applicant today. So the condition will reference the site plan received by Community Development and Regulatory Affairs on January 11th, 2022. And the updated site plan includes some off-street parking. And it will also reference the fact that there's going to be coordination needed between the Georgia Department of Transportation and the city for traffic improvements along Campbellton Road. Concurrently with this item is a request for a variance. To put it succinctly, the zoning code requires a berm to be constructed as a buffer between the proposed development and the traffic on Campbellton Road. The Georgia Department of Transportation, who manages Campbellton Road, noted that their berm was impacting site distance. And so they have instructed the developer that the berm would have to be removed. But as you all know, the city and the Department of Transportation are in the process of creating a traffic light at the intersection of Stonewall Tell and Campbellton Road that will align with this development. So if the traffic light is installed, it's possible that the Georgia Department of Transportation might allow the developer to maintain the berm. And so the condition on that one that will be at the next meeting will most likely say something along the lines of the applicant is allowed to remove portions of the berm if required by the Georgia Department of Transportation, since coordination concerning the traffic light is still going on. And so we're going to dive into this a little bit more. Next slide, please. So the site is currently zone TR based on the zoning decision that we spoke about earlier that was approved under Fulton County, and the future land use is community live work. So the proposal fits into the future land use plan for density, but not the allowed zoning designations. But as I mentioned, it was already approved under Fulton County to be zone TR. And the staff recommendation on this is approval with conditions. Next slide, please. So here is kind of where the site is, where the road bends. It is Campbellton Road, and then the road under that one, going from north to south, is Stonewall Tail Road. Next slide, please. And so on the left, you can see the future land use map. You can see that it's the future land use is community live work. And then on the right, you see the zoning map. You can see that it's zoned TR. Next slide, please. And here's an image of the site plan. So are we able to zoom in just a little bit? So yeah, that's perfect. And so what you'll see here in this site plan is that the pink line is the site distance, and then the gray area towards the bottom of the development is the location of the berm. And so the berm actually right now, it was constructed already by a previous developer who didn't complete the project. So what you'll see on this site plan is that the berm currently goes from one end of the development to all the way to the other end of the other end of the development. And so what the berm does is it kind of intersects this pink line here, and the pink line is the site distance. So what that means is that if I'm at the entrance to the development and I look to the left, GDOT requires me to be able to see a certain amount of distance so that I'm able to make wise decisions as a driver and decide when to turn when there aren't cars coming so that I don't get hit. And so what is happening is that GDOT is coordinating with the city to install a traffic light here and realign the intersection. So Stonewall Tail, the road kind of south of this, is going to interline with this intersection. It's going to be signalized. And so what will happen is the traffic light will tell me when I'm able to turn, so the site distance won't be as important. So that's kind of where we are with this one. Next slide, please. I think that's the last slide for this one. And that concludes my presentation.
All right. Do we have speakers for or against this item?
Yes, sir. First, you would need to open up the public hearing. I guess the applicant is on as well. So, but you would need to open up the public hearing to hear from both parties.
Thank you very much. See, this is why everyone should get to be Mayor Pro Tem. We're going to open up the public hearing.
I think first is the applicant, Mr. Rothman.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, members of council, Happy New Year. I'm Steve Rothman, presenting the applicant. My address is 2849 Paces Ferry Road. I think Marissa did a great job of explaining the request. As she said, this project is partially built. The roads are in, the sewers, the water's in. It was originally built for 144 units, which is all we're asking for. It almost seems as if there was a typo when it went to 114. No one can figure out why 114. So my client, Rockhaven Homes, and Brad Hughes is really Rockhaven Homes, and he's on, just wants to build the homes where the roads are already laid out, the way the lot pattern is already laid out. We don't want to take down the berm. GDOT is asking us to. If we don't have to, we don't want to. And I guess with that, we've been working with Sandtown since the fall, really, on this, and the district council member. The reason for the late site plan yesterday is because we met with them last Thursday. There was additional requests that had been brought up before about interspersing guest parking throughout the development. So we've done that. And so I think with that, we agree with the conditions. We've had a great building process with the community. We've been at it a while. We finished last Thursday with that. And so with that, we'd ask for your support. And I'm here to answer questions, as is Brad Hughes on behalf of Rockhaven Homes. And that completes my presentation.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
We did receive a number of, a few comments regarding this case. I guess the first person, and I believe she's on the call, she wishes to submit live public comment, is Ms. Sonia Patterson. Ms. Patterson, are you on the call? Ms. Patterson? I thought she was on the call, but I do have a number of forms that I received, so I'll just start reading them into the record.
Now, are these for or against?
You have one in support, and the rest are in opposition.
All right, let's hear the one in support first.
Okay. I'll use the 825 for the proponents. Okay, this is from Mr. Harvey Davis, who lives in District 1. He says, I would like to express my overwhelming support of M21-007, request for modification to Z 2008-0023 conditions. The community has met with this development team for a number of months, who was very flexible and has made quite a few changes to the project to address every concern voiced by stakeholders in the surrounding community and District 1, where this residential project is. The primary reason that they are requesting a zoning modification is that at some point in revisions to documents during administrative turnover, apparently there was a scrivener's error inadvertently reducing the number of units from 144 to 114. What was unfortunate was in the early construction prep, which was consistent with the zoning, all of the utilities, water, sewer, electricity, etc., were buried underground for 144 units, not 114. When the delayed project resumed, the error was discovered. To have to dig up and reinstall the utilities for a new site plan would be an extreme and costly hardship for the developer and impact their financial feasibility model. As a member of the Sandtown Community Association for 20 plus years, we have engaged developers to seek win-wins to foster quality development consistent with Blueprint Sandtown. We carefully leveraged our experience to protect residents while shepherding the development that will come. Our community has sought to overcome the area's reputation of saying no to everything, which stifled many of the things the community actually wants. As a result, over the years, planning, Fulton commissioners and now council members that represent the Sandtown community, Catherine Rao, District 1, Carmelita Gums, District 2, encourage developers to meet with our organization, who is an umbrella team for residents and homeowners. Our council members have had the opportunity to sit in some of these meetings and hear the pulse of the community. At the end of the day, our decades of zoning experience, knowledge of zoning law, and work with the ARC and GDOT have been a catalyst for quality growth in Sandtown, including the new Publix in Sandtown Crossing. Early on with LCI grant from the ARC, we now see the fruit and implementation of long-awaited infrastructure like the sidewalks on Camilton Road, a state highway project this project is on. We are collaborated with both county and municipal public works and GDOT, and most recent achievements is the nearly completed $9 million roundabout at Camilton and Boat Rock, which is one of the mixed-use commercial nodes we established and were codified years ago. My colleagues understand the balance between established neighborhoods and the rights of undeveloped property owners. I have personally attended 4 or more virtual meetings with this developer's team, which was a pleasant experience as they have bent over backwards, tweaking the site plan and amenities, addressing all reasonable community concerns. That's it for those in support.
All right, I'm going to open it up for council discussion.
But you want to hear those in opposition?
I'm sorry, I thought there was one in support.
Yeah, and then the rest are in opposition.
Okay.
Okay, let me just check one last time. Is Mrs. Sonia Patterson, is she on? Okay, not hearing her name, I'll read her comment into the record. This comment is from Sonia Patterson, who lives on Haley Circle in District 2. She states, M21-007 zoning request. Hello, Honorable Mayor and Council. This request is to increase the number of homes from 114 to 146. Please deny. They want to make the homes smaller and jam more into this already congested area. Does not go along with the existing home sites in the area, and it may negatively affect the home values of the existing homes. Also, this is a very congested area, so adding another almost 50 home sites with 2 to 3 cars per home is not a good idea. Please deny. She also states with regard to the concurrent variance CV21-007, please deny. This request to decrease the berm required by the sand channel overlay, please deny. We constituents are very concerned with the maintenance of the green spaces here in our city. The request to reduce the berm will negatively impact our ecology and our health. There have been many studies that show that city densities must take into consideration green spaces in order to keep the ecology balanced. We already have the water treatment plant here in District 2, making us subject to very bad smells from time to time. I hope that we are able to maintain our green spaces. Please deny. Sincerely, Sonia Patterson. Next is from Glenda Collins regarding M21-007. She lives on Morning Creek in District 5. The square footage should not be reduced since many people spend more time at home, and the reduction of square footage may prevent the growth from individuals having an office or hobby space in their home. In addition to all the building, traffic studies done, the city of South Fulton needs infrastructure improvements in the whole city before the city continues with additional buildings. And then lastly is Diane Johnson, who lives on Vernier Drive in District 5. She states, you said you are going to reduce the houses and lot sizes when they are already small enough. By making the lot smaller, the houses will be built closer together. For example, if my neighbor's house catches fire, then mine will too. And that ends the comments.
All right, and what is next?
So you can, you have to close the public hearing or allow the applicant time to rebuttal.
I do see Mr. Rothman's hand raised. Would you like to rebut, Mr. Rothman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will very briefly. Just to respond to those comments, first of all, there was the concern that we are increasing the number of lots or home sites. And I wanted to reiterate that the home sites were approved by Fulton County before the downturn in 2008. The infrastructure was put in under the Fulton County regulations. And so we're really not asking to increase the home sites. It's that the regulation, when it transferred over to South Fulton, took it from 144, which had already been built, but they never built the homes because of the downturn, but they had already put in the infrastructure. And the zoning took it down to 114. So we're not asking to go beyond what has already been built. And so I would like the council and the person who was concerned to know that this developer is not looking to cram as many homes as they can in. They just want to put a home on top of the water and electrical and all the infrastructure, that sewers that have already been piped to those lots that were already subdivided when it was at Fulton County. Secondly, there was a concern about, well, I just want to say we've worked closely with the community, submitted elevations. We've increased the amount of brick facade and natural stone facade on those elevations, which will be part of the condition of zoning. The 2,000 square foot minimum was not something that was originally there. So again, we're just trying to fit this development with what was originally approved and then developed in Fulton County. And then finally, with regard to the berm, we're all for that. It would be so much easier to keep the berm. GDOT is telling us for traffic and life safety, you might have to remove a portion of it. But as Marissa said in her presentation, to the extent that traffic signal going in means we don't have to remove it. If GDOT doesn't make us cut a piece of that berm out at the intersection, we won't do it. So it's only to the extent, as Marissa said, that GDOT requires us to do it. So I think with that, I'll keep my comments brief, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any other comment against in the balance of time, or how much time do we have left on the clock, I guess?
Yes, I read all of the, let me make sure. Yes, I read all of the opposition comments into the record. So you can close it whenever you deem appropriate.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And this is in, I'm going to open up now for council comments. I want to say I'm having a problem with my cue, so if you all will just raise your hands, I will recognize you as the hands are raised, starting with the district whose council, the council person whose district this is in, Dr. Rao.
Thank you very much. For the benefit of the public, I would ask Ms. Jackson or Mr. Rothman to share the elevations that had been agreed upon as a result of that meeting. And I would like to see this plan that shows the additional parking that was requested for guest parking in the community. Can somebody bring that up on the screen?
Yes, ma'am. I have those documents. They weren't included in the presentation because I just got them today. I can share them if I have permission from the clerk's office to share my screen, or, okay, awesome. Just a second.
I want the record to show what was agreed upon based on those meetings with community. And so I want the record to reflect that before I take any action.
Yes, ma'am. Hold on just a second. So, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So,
can you point out on this, the additional parking area where the amenities are, as well as the facades? The new elevations.
yes, ma'am. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. So this is the site plan. So this is the site plan. Not cooperating all the way. These are some of the off-street parking spaces here that were incorporated. And then if we scroll down, there are some more. And then there are some more off-street parking spaces here that were incorporated. So here is where the amenity area is going to go. The amenity area is going to include a pool and a cabana / clubhouse. The clubhouse is going to include a kitchen, a meeting area, and restrooms with changing areas. So this is the site plan we received from the applicant today. And then also these are the elevations we received from the applicant.
Those aren't the elevations that I received from the community.
Okay. Mr. Rothman, are these the elevations you sent me today?
Those are some of them. I think if you scroll down, there's a lot of them there. Let's see. Let me look at the rest of them. No, I don't have them on my laptop. Brad Hughes, if you're able to share the screen to show the additional elevations that we provided in the last couple weeks in response to the Sandtown community's requests. I don't have those on my laptop.
Yeah, they had the modern farmhouse designs.
Yes,
with
and
more
the
brick
and
and stone, yeah.
more brick and then also stone, additional stone.
If you can start at the top, she didn't start at the top and just open up, but these are the elevations that we had at the last meeting. And then the last that have more brick and stone and shake, and then the last one is the most revised one that's not in color. But if you can go back, Marissa, and just start at the first page and then go down.
Okay, let's see. So this is the document I received today from Steve. Let's scroll to the right. So you mean these elevations?
At the top, right.
Okay.
So, again, Sandtown is looking for those elevations being made available. And so I just want the record to reflect that.
Thank you. So that we're all on one accord, is it going to be a mixture of these, or is it going to be mostly the first one?
It's going to be all 6 of those slides.
Okay. And then this slide. And so then the people that are purchasing the townhomes have the option to choose which elevation they would like to have. Is that what's happening?
Let me see. Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
So I move that we approve 144 townhomes with additional elevations being offered to homeowners or individuals who are purchasing the lot. That the amenity area include the clubhouse and the pool, as well as the additional off-site visitors parking.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. We're going to have discussion. I actually wanted to ask a couple of questions. These houses all seem to these units all seem to be, there's no staggered setback between them, is what I'm asking. I know that there are multiple units in a row, but are all the rows on the same?
Our zoning ordinance requires staggered setbacks.
All right, so I just didn't see it in the elevations.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, the elevations tend to look two-dimensional, like a cruise ship or something, and we've spent a lot of time with the community sort of breaking them out individually, but the code requires that.
And then this is a larger question for Mr. Hyman and I guess possibly Mr. McClendon. We have a couple of these communities in our city that were begun or approved under Fulton County, and now are being finished now that we're a city, sometimes by the same developer, sometimes by different developers. What is our obligation as a city to follow any designs or infrastructures or approvals that were done at this point 5 years ago or more by Fulton County? Are we obligated in any way to continue whatever was started under Fulton County in these developments?
May I let Mr. McClendon address that?
Thank you. This is Reginald McClendon, Assistant City Attorney. That's really a fact-specific question that we would have to ask ourselves for each particular project. And we would have to determine whether or not the developer has acquired vested rights in the previous approvals coming from Fulton County that we would have to honor here in the city of South Fulton.
Okay, thank you. The first hand I saw was Councilwoman Williams.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to ask a question, and I apologize if it was said and I missed it. But are there any sort of amenities for kids? I know I heard a pool and a cabana and maybe some other things. So if this is a redundant question, I apologize. I just wanted to make sure I heard all the amenities correctly.
I can answer that if that's okay, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, please.
Yeah, there's in addition to the clubhouse and the pool, there will be playgrounds around in that same amenity area. I think, and Brad, correct me if I'm wrong, you were thinking 2 separate, maybe even 3 separate little play areas instead of one large playground, separate play areas. But that's what the proposal is.
Yes, sir. Along with, multiple little dog parks throughout, but yes, sir, they'll have several different little play areas as well.
But they're congregated at the amenity center.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And could you give me an idea of how big is the pool if you are going to do 146 townhomes? How many? I'm assuming one pool, but how many people can use the pool at one time?
That's a great question. I don't know the size of the pool. I know the size of the clubhouse is about 1,100 square feet. But in terms of the pool, I'm not sure I measured that. Brad, do you have a sense of the square footage of the pool, how long it is and wide?
1 second. Yes, sir. So it's roughly would be about 80 by 70 feet, and that includes the concrete decking around the pool as well. It's a little over, around 2,100 square feet is the actual the pool size of the water, and then you have the decking around it.
Okay, thank you very much for that answer. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I will recognize Councilman Sebastian. You're on mute, sir. Are you having problems unmuting yourself, Mr. Sebastian?
Oh, no, I didn't. I wasn't hearing anything. I think my internet went out for a few seconds. All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. A point of clarification for me. I noticed all the different elevation, and the question was asked if citizens were going to be able to choose or buyers were going to be able to choose the elevation that they wanted. I'm assuming that we're not going to be building these different elevations like next to each other, that there might be sections of these elevations available, and not, one person choose lot 1 and have one elevation and another person choose lot 2 and say, I want that elevation instead. But you're going to have sections of the community with the various elevations that people can choose from?
I'm going to kick it to Brad because I don't want to misspeak. Brad, I think I know the answer, but Brad, could you respond to that?
Yes, sir. Councilman, you're correct. There'll be different, sections within the development where there'll be, multiple different elevations. So there'll be sections where there'll be more, brick elevation sections where there'll be more cementous siding with multiple different, color schemes and all that. So it'll break up, the color schemes and the streetscapes and make it a whole lot more attractive than just the same, thing down every road in each building, the exact same.
Thank you. Final question for me, yeah, because it sounds as if what the answer you gave before that they could have been next to each other, which for me didn't make much sense. The other question is, I don't know if it was mentioned, but what is the price point of these units? What's the range?
They'll start in the low 300s and go up from there.
Roughly at the top? Any idea?
If they're, as you know, this market is, crazy right now. And it's an ever changing market with prices of material and subs and labor and all that. So it's changing literally weekly and monthly. But I would say, if we had everything developed and ready to go today, would probably, start out at, 325, 335 and go up from there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other folks in the queue? Going once, going twice. I'm going to ask or just make one follow-up comment. It is the purview of the council to vote, and certainly I will always yield to the council person whose district it sits in. But on this matter of pools, have you thought about whether the pool is a chlorine pool or a saltwater pool?
No, sir. No, sir. Not yet. We have not.
So again, I yield to the councilperson. I think it's nice when possible, just something for all of you to consider as we're building communities that do have pools. Those saltwater pools can be more expensive to install. Their maintenance can be cheaper in the long run, and they're just better for your skin. As someone who is an avid swimmer, they're just better for your skin, and it's a nice selling feature. All right. So, do we want to carry this motion? Will you just restate the motion, Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, actually, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, for items requiring action, either approval or denial, we don't hear these items for vote until the regular meeting. This is supposed to be public hearing for these items.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Rao. You're absolutely right. So we will sound the next item.
And just for the record, Ms. Jackson, that item was M21-007 and CV21-007.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So the next item is item 4, U21-007, request for a special use permit for Cosmetology Service Suites located at 7580 Springbox Drive, located in District 4.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. So this item is for Cosmetology Suites. Based on the zoning code adopted by council in December of 2020, special personal care services such as hair salons, barbershops, nail salons are required to get special use permits in order to operate. So the applicant would like to apply for a new business license for Cosmetology Suites. She's offering a variety of services, including hair salon services, nail salons, makeup services, eyebrow services, lash services, facials, and waxing. The site is currently zoned MIX, which is mixed use, and the future land use is local live work. And so the proposal is in compliance with both the zoning and the future land use plan. And staff recommendation on this one is going to be conditions. And the conditions will say something along the lines of the application is approved to limit services to cosmetology services such as hair salons, nail salons, makeup, eyebrows, lashes, facials, waxing, and barbershop. And I think it's important to note that the business model for this applicant is to have salon suites. And so you walk into the building and, there's a receptionist area where your stylist greets you, and then you go to their own private suite rather than having like an open shop or salon model. Can we scroll up, please, Mr. Clerk? So here's so this is where the site is located. It's at the intersection of Campbellton, Fairburn Road, and Butner Road. Next slide, please. And so on the left is the future land use map. You can see the future land use is local live work. And then on the next page is the zoning map, and you can see that it's zone mixed use. And then again, this is an image of the floor plan, so you can see how the site is organized with the suites. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, we will open up for public comment for and against.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, before recognizing the applicant, I just would like to let you and the council know that we did not receive any comments in support or in opposition to this case.
All right. We'll go ahead and hear from the applicant.
Ms. Hightower, are you on the call?
Hi, yes, good evening. Happy New Year, everyone. If I can share my screen, I just have a really brief presentation. It's not long. Okay. All right, so Marissa did an excellent job, of course, just giving you guys the general overview of what Bella Mae Salon Studios will be, which is a professional salon studios, of course, in the heart of South Fulton. Let's see, can I move this out the way here? And as she stated earlier, it will be comprised of 7 salon studios and suites. We'll be providing hair, nail, and beauty services. We're located at the shops at Hampton Oaks. And she already showed you guys the floor plan and exactly how everything will be laid out. Our business structure will be comprised of licensed independent contractors and employees to meet the needs of our patrons who are coming to visit. And this is just a overview of the services that we will be providing. During the last meeting, we kind of had to iron out exactly what cosmetology services are included under that umbrella. And so basically just boiling it down to hair, nails, and esthetician services. I also sent Marissa a formal description from the Georgia State Board of Cosmetology that just showed all of the cosmetology services that are or that can be performed under that cosmetology umbrella. Our operating hours are Sunday through Monday by appointment and Tuesday through Saturday, 9 to 7. And this is our contact information. And I am open to any questions, comments, concerns.
All right, I will open it up for discussion. I'm going to start with
Mr. Mayor, you want to close the public comment before you go to the council?
Yes, I will close the public comment. I'm going to open this up for discussion. I do want to start with the council person in whose district this sits, which is Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Hightower, I'm pleased to meet you. We've never had the pleasure of meeting, but based on what I've seen and from my knowledge of the area, I don't think we have any business like yours in the immediate area to warrant, any issues. So I'll just keep it short and say I would move for this to be approved with the conditions that staff outlined.
Councilman Sebastian, you can hold your vote. We won't be voting on this until the regular meeting in 2 weeks. This is for public hearing only.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question. The conditions, did we limit the uses that of people that could be in this space in those conditions?
Yes. Oh, was that for me?
Yes, it was.
Okay, yes. I believe there was a bit of a concern, I guess, in terms of what type of services they were concerned with, like tattooing and I guess invasive services, but we will not be doing any of those, microabrasion and different services of that nature.
I'm sorry, and that was for Miss Miller. The conditions, what were the? Can you just go over those conditions one more time? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Was that a question for me, Mayor?
Yes.
Okay, yes, sir. So the conditions will say something. The conditions will say that the request is approved to provide salon suites for licensed cosmetologists, for services to include hair salon services, nail salon services, makeup artist services, facial services, eyebrow services, waxing services, lash services, and barbershop services.
Thank you. And those conditions transfer with the ownership? Should this transfer?
No, sir. The zoning conditions go with the land. And so those zoning conditions will go with the location. So this address, I'm going to remind myself of the address. So the address 7580 Springbox Drive, Suites 250 and 260 will be allowed for the services mentioned until a future council or someone else comes back and decides that that address in particular will be changed via a zoning resolution like we're doing right now.
Thank you. I just wanted to ensure that. I'm sure that Ms. Hightower, you will keep the highest standards, but I do just want to make sure that should the property change hands, I know that sometimes people eager to fill up spaces will start inviting different kind of folks in, and then we end up with a little mini flea market. But that's great to know. All right, I'm going to close this session. Is that correct, Mr. Clerk?
Yes, we are at the last item on the agenda, which is executive session.
Well, actually, before that, I did make a promise. I do want to hear from members of council, so I want to give everyone 2 minutes to, if there's anything that you're doing for King Weekend or people should know about coming up. I'm going to go ahead and start with Dr. Rao.
Thank you for that. On Saturday, January 15th, in partnership with the Southeast Trust for Parks and Land, we'll continue to work on the Camelton Nature Preserve. Starting at 10 o'clock, we'll be looking for volunteers. So if you're interested, you can go to my Facebook page and follow the link to participate in that King Day of Service. In addition, on Monday, January 17th, in partnership with the Cascade Business Merchants Association, we'll do our annual MLK cleanup along the MLK corridor, and all are welcome. And that also is from 10 to 12. We'll meet at the Cascade Driving Range, which is our usual location. And for the event on Saturday, we will, you can park next to Arden's Garden and then walk to the park, which is again right behind the new Publix.
Awesome. All right, Councilwoman Gums, District 2.
Yes, we have quite a bit of activities. First, starting off on the 14th, we will be having our public safety. It's similar to a coffee with a cop on January 14th from 9 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. at the Fresh from Earth Herb Tea Bar. That's right there in the shopping center next to St. James Live. So we will have our public safety officers there. So I'm encouraging residents, if they are working from home or on their way out to work, maybe they can stop by, meet some of our community officers, continuing to promote community engagement and community policing. Also, too, in support of MLK activities, we will be assisting Stonewall Tell Elementary with their beautification day. They will be building a tiny library at the school. So we're asking volunteers, parents, and volunteers to come out and assist. We'll be there on the 17th from 9 a.m. until 12 p.m. So we're hoping that we get a lot of volunteers for that. Of course, with the tiny library initiative, we want to encourage and promote reading levels. And then also, too, there are a few other day of service activities that will be taking place. Again, with Wolf Creek Elementary, which is not in my district, but also, too, a lot of our Divine Nine will be out assisting, and then also to Renaissance and Evelyn C. West. So those are some activities for MLK that we all are doing in partnership with board member Francesca Warren, the South Fulton Parents for Education, and the City of South Fulton Professional Pearls.
All right, District 3, the place to be, Mayor Pro Tem Willis.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to remind everyone that today starts National Human Sex Trafficking Awareness Day. We need to make sure that we are aware of what's happening around human sex trafficking. And I will be participating on a panel with East Point Delta Sigma Theta. They will be giving a workshop on November 15th. So I will make sure that information gets out to you. Also, I would like to remind everyone that there will be a citywide Parks and Recreation Cultural Affairs Master Plan information open house session on January 29th, 22nd from 9 until 5. If you have an interest on developing or improving our Park and Recreation Center, our Park and Recreation services, please come out and participate in this master plan process. I will be partnering with Dr. Talbert on a MLK event, but I'm not going to announce it. We prefer for that event to be random. But I am, because we don't want to incite a large crowd. Omicron is still alive, and it is still impacting people. So I will encourage all. Yes, we do want to celebrate Martin Luther King, and we want to celebrate his memory and his legacy. But most of all, we want to be here to continue to celebrate his legacy and what he stood for. So please be cognizant of large gatherings. Make sure you're wearing your mask, and just make sure that you're safe, because I'm sure that he will want us here to continue to celebrate his legacy. Thank you.
All right, and District 4, Mr. Sebastian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For District 4, this Saturday, we'll be having a community cleanup, and we're going to be meeting at 6000 Lindmark Way. That's the plaza at City Grove Road and South Fulton Parkway, opposite the Mustard Seed Barbecue. That's going to start from 10 a.m. in the morning, and we're going to be cleaning that plaza as well as one of the hot spots in District 4, Cedar Grove Road, between South Fulton Parkway and Rivertown Road. We're also partnering with Keep South Fulton Beautiful on that day. If you still have residents still have their live Christmas trees and they want to recycle those, they're going to be able to bring them by, and we're going to transport them to get shredded. All right, so that's all for now from District 4.
All right, and District 5, Councilman Reeves.
Well, first I do want to say congratulations to Georgia winning the championship after 40 years. I'm just saying, like, you know, that was put in the room there. But however, well, this weekend we're going to be in a day of service along with the mayor. Is going to be out with the cleanup. That's on MLK Day. Saturday we'll be on Old National and in Biscayne. And so then we're going to be going up flat shows just to do some sightseeing. And pretty much, and we have some upcoming classes. We got our senior CPR. We have our senior Connect classes where you know any senior who needs to get digitally connected, whether they use their new smartphone, their camera device, or any new device that they got electronically. We have a senior Connect class and senior CPR. And so that's all I have right now.
Sorry, I'm muted. District 6, Councilwoman Williams.
Yes, yes, thank you, Mayor. While I do not personally have anything for District 6 specifically, I would like to remind residents that this weekend during the ML King Weekend of Service, Hands on Atlanta will be doing a number of events, one of them which is the MLK Sunday Supper on the 16th. And I would like to encourage, if you have not attended that and been a part of that, it really is a wonderful event, and certainly would hope that people would take advantage of that opportunity.
Awesome, awesome. And last but not least, District 7, Dr. Baker. Is Dr. Baker with us? Going once, going twice. I feel like as soon as we move on, Dr. Baker is gonna pop back in.
I do not see him in the meeting.
Okay. All right. So I will, last but not least, say I will be with Mr. Reeves and hopefully also Dr. Baker, knocking doors in Camelot. All of council is welcome to come. We're going to meet all 300 residents, well, all the residents in all 300 units in this community will be gathering here at Camelot at 2 p.m. on Monday, May 17th. That will be our day of service. We'll be introducing ourselves to all the residents and making sure that they all know about this wonderful city of Fulton. You can sign up for that to volunteer at khalidcares.com. And with that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session. And I also want to thank all of you before that. Thank everyone watching who stayed with us for both of these meetings and bared with me as I went through these agendas for our my first meetings as mayor, doing a work session and a zoning hearing. So thank you all so much. And with that,
Mr. Mayor, first of all, you said May 17th. Want to make sure you meant January 17th?
Yes. Okay. January 17th. Sorry about that. Yes.
And if I may, Councilmember Baker sent me a text, and he wants citizens to visit dadsonduty.com, an organization that he's working with this month. dadsonduty.com.
Thank you. And with that, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move that we go into executive session for real estate, personnel, and litigation.
Second.
All right, Mr. Clerk. Any discussion? Mr. Clerk, will you go ahead and sound the vote?
Yes, roll call vote to go into executive session, the recess. Councilmember Rao,
Yes.
Councilmember Gums,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Willis,
Yes.
Councilmember Sebastian,
Yes.
Councilmember Reeves,
Aye.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
and Councilmember Baker. Mr. Baker had just come in. That motion is approved. We are recessed for executive session at 7:51 p.m. Please look for the note